Good afternoon from Riga. We are back with the third round of Riga Technical University Open 2024. In the studio with you again is Women International Master Anna Kantane.
Yes, welcome everyone, and I am joined once again by Grandmaster Kantāns. Welcome everyone in this lovely afternoon here in Riga. It's a very nice weather. We met some players as well. It seems to be a really lovely atmosphere and they seem to be feeling really nice. We also had a top seed in the studio today who mentioned that Riga is one of his favorite cities and it's already his third time being here. So yeah, everyone is enjoying this tournament. Once again, we are on the day 2, but it is already a third round of the event. The players are already playing. You can see the playing hall. More and more tournaments are actually going to be starting. The festival is 9 days long. We are following Tournament A, but there is also Tournament B already happening. During the weekend we'll have additional tournaments for those who cannot commit 1 week, because it is quite a lot of time, so some people can only play for a couple of days, and this is also why this festival is so popular.
And actually also this year there is not only a chess tournaments, but also a bridge event going on parallel to the chess festival, which is also making the whole thing more colorful.
Yes, absolutely. This is a big exhibition hall, so there is a lot of place for other people. I think there was a bridge tournament also some year, but I'm not sure if it was part of the festival. Toms, how are your bridge skills?
I barely know the rules, but yeah, there are no skills.
Okay, well, it's still better than me. But yeah, that is often the case that people who play chess, they also like other mind games, mind sports. So it's really nice to see. And yeah, here we have the players already thinking round number 2 of today. So double round, it's always kind of tricky. So they already played a game in the morning. They had a break, and the break, you know, it depends how long was the game in the morning, how much time did they have to rest and to prepare for this round. Not only prepare chess-wise, but to rest, to prepare mentally as well. Sometimes after a tough game, you have to kind of regroup. So there are a lot of factors to get yourself ready for another game in such a chess tournament. Tom was mentioning before that sometimes there is this choice: will you get a good lunch? Will you get a good chess prep? So yeah, a lot of decisions. And sometimes beginning of the second round, I think it's also quite difficult because you're still not as sharp. So let's see if we are going to have some surprises like we had in the morning or the early. In the opening, there were some blunders. So I think we can jump and see the pairings of round number 2. Round number 3 of today, to see what awaits us in this round.
Yeah, the rating-wise, the matchups are already much closer together. As you can see already, even on the board number 1, there's only 200-point difference between the higher-rated and lower-rated players, but this difference is decreasing the lower we go. Like on average, maybe it is somewhere, it's near this 200 points, but yeah, there's also already smaller differences, and that already means that the matchups are kind of close, and we can expect, if not many upsets today, then at least a lot of draws, I think, in this round. Usually by round 4, there are already not that many people with a perfect score, for this reason that we see a lot of draws already being played out. And on the board 1, we have Piedlužny Gleb playing against the top seed Teodoro Nicolas. So Gleb is a progressing player from Lithuania. This year he's also going to represent Lithuania in Chess Olympiad as the board 5. He played some tournament in Latvia in the June. He was doing very well. I actually ended up losing a game against him. So yeah, he is very dangerous player. And on board 2 we have Bjorn Kacper, second seed, playing against another Lithuanian player, international master Stremavičius Pijus. And yeah, he also can play very explosive style. He likes to play fast, first of all, and second of all, he likes to go for some unusual looking positions. Not the most solid ones, but the ones which are kind of unbalanced and fun to play.
Then board 3, we have Indian player, once again in the top, Dej Shahil, facing Altay Safarli. Here we have maybe it's even the biggest rating difference, or one of the biggest rating differences, 228 points, I guess if my math is correct, let's see. But yeah, of course, Indian players, they can be really dangerous. So with white pieces, I think it can be still a great fight. And I'm really excited about the next board because we have Vantika Agraval with the black pieces. This is the top seed among women players in this tournament. And she's facing Paulius Pultinevicius. You see, I am titled by her name. She's also a woman grandmaster. So I'm looking forward to this game, especially that we had some female players in the previous round on the stage, on the top boards, and they created some upsets. There were draws. And actually the game we were following at the very end, Laura Rogula had great winning chances against strong grandmaster, but then game ended in a draw. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's gonna be a big challenge for her to play with black pieces against Paulius Pultinevicius, but yeah, hopefully it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, we're probably going to be focusing on the top boards in the event. We'll maybe touch also, if we'll see some positions from the top 10 boards, some interesting ones, and if we maybe also we notice something very, very spectacular on the lower boards, but I assume that the main focus will be for the highest rated part of the table here. And as you can see at this moment, we have actually 51% with a perfect score, 2 out of 2. And yeah, as I said, after this round, I expect this number to decrease probably to 20 or even less than 20 people with a perfect score.
Yeah, still some interesting names that I was spotting with the perfect score with 2 out of 2. Now we have also second seed among women, Katarina Dolzhikova, and we have Jakub Seman from Poland. On board number 16, he's playing with white pieces, and he is a current world champion under 16. So we have a world champion here in Riga as well, gaining experience. He's an IM, so I am assuming he's also here on the hunt for the Grandmaster norm. And yeah, I think those were especially the players. And then we have also Chen Hongsen from China, who created a very big upset in the first round. He won 5th seed, and he actually also won in the morning today. So he won 2 players that are higher rated than himself, and he is on a perfect score as well. The lowest rated player with the perfect score, 2145 rated, but yeah, he's doing great for now. So probably we could jump and already see the top boards. Probably let's start with the first one again. And we see on the camera now Jakub Seman actually, and that's the player on the left who just grabbed his head. Yeah, this is the world champ that we have here in Riga. Yes, we even have a zoom in. Yeah, I think we can also follow his game, even though it's board number 16. We can take a look. It's great to see those youngsters coming here and gaining experience, gaining their norms. So let's see.
And it's very likely that in the follow-up rounds he's going to be higher and higher, and we'll be also seeing his games more often.
Yeah, today he's still playing from the top against a bit lower rated player. So he is a favorite, but you never know in chess. That's what makes this game so exciting. And there we go. We have our top seed on the screen, Nicolas Teodorou. He had a really exciting game in the morning. He had a very famous tactic possible, which he kind of missed in a way. So I wonder really if people were bothering him with some messages. Why didn't you spot it? But he won his game, so he's still on the perfect score. And now he's playing with the black pieces against Gleb Podłużny, which, as Tom said, is a very dangerous player.
Actually, for his, I think, tournament as such, it was better not to win the game so quickly, because he actually got to warm up way more and, to deliver some tactical combinations, to count some complicated lines, and he's probably way more sharp right now than he would be if he had actually checkmated his opponent in 15 moves.
I don't know. I think it's always nice to win in 15 moves. I wouldn't mind. But as Tom said, sometimes to kind of be in the tournament mode, it is not that great to win very quick or to make a quick draw, because then you have kind of so much time, you haven't put so much energy into the game, and you're kind of out of the usual tournament zone.
Actually, for me, the best results always have happened. The best runs of a lot of wins and best results overall in the tournaments have happened just after I barely win some very hard, very long game and just somehow I squeeze it out, and then the whole tournament just goes perfectly. You don't have anything like this?
I am not sure. I unfortunately probably don't have that many great tournaments as you had in your career, but I think it was usually better for me if I'm just confidently winning from the very start. I think so. Yeah, we have here board one, a player with white pieces. He is only 17. I think it's visible he looks quite young. Yeah, he is still young, but very talented and very dangerous player. Yeah, let's focus on the position. Black just played rook a d8. And now white is ready to answer. This is still position with full pieces, no exchanges yet. Again, I want to say that I feel like you have played some of those structures, but I mentioned it in the morning and you proved me wrong, so I'm not sure. It feels like you have been playing similar structures, or no?
Yeah, I have been playing similar structures than here. That is very true, because what we saw was Sicilian with, not the open Sicilian, but the one with bishop b5 on move number 3. And yeah, so those positions I have played quite a lot. And so this was all very known kind of lines. And actually, surprisingly, white chose to go not for the most principled reply there. We can see also the big board on the screen. And so yeah, white just decided to develop pieces in a normal, orderly fashion without trying to prove his opponent really wrong. So in these kind of positions, one of the typical reasons why we don't play quickly knight f6 is because it can be met sometimes by e5, and now when the knight comes to g4, we can take on c6, and when the pawn takes castle and bishop g7, we are just in time to protect the pawn, and later on this knight has to go through h6 back to either f5 or f7, which is somewhat uncomfortable, and it does promise rather nice game for white, but you have to know, you have to be ready for it. So maybe not being ready for it, maybe that's a surprise opening, we don't know. Yeah, he just decided to go for something much more calm, much more solid, just immediately taking away this g4 square, so that e5 would be coming maybe with some bigger strength. And as we see, black is no longer allowing the e5 move to appear on the board, and both sides just develop pieces calmly, but they both are spending time. They both are spending time on each move, so it's also pretty safe, I think, to assume that they are just improvising on the spot, that there is no deep preparation, just there was idea, okay, we want to play this structure, and then we see now the bishop retreating back. So after e5 is played, bishop has a very nice diagonal with a lot of squares to control. Especially the square on d5 is the kind of outpost that none of the black pawns can control anymore. So white decides no longer to be giving up their bishop, but already to change the plan a little bit and switch the bishop to the long open diagonal. So, but of course that costs time, and black gets an extra move for development, and he doesn't want this bishop to be powerful and controlling everything, so he's going with bishop e6, trying to exchange it. And now knight d2, this is somewhat surprising move to me, because knight is not the worst piece in white's position right now. We still could be taking care of the bishop, or we could be looking to capitalize on the d5 square, or and taking away with the c3 the d4 square for opponent, because that's also a very, very strong outpost. But especially interesting, I think, are some lines connected with putting bishop on g5 right now and asking this knight some very concrete questions and trying to just take full control of the d5 square, because since if we do manage to take this knight, then later on d5 is ours.
Yeah, this is a typical exchange, even though usually bishops are better than knights. Then in those structures, it's about this d5 square, very important square, and knight on f6 is defending this square. And on the other hand, bishop for white, the dark square bishop cannot fight directly for the d5 square, since it's a light square, so exchanging the knight would make a lot of sense, but they are playing really quickly now, so they did spend a little bit of time, but now the moves come in really, really fast.
So rook a d8 was played, using the fact that we cannot play bishop g5 now in any way, and just preparing break in the center, which is extremely, extremely logical. And white was continuing with his idea. So his idea was to try to manage to get this knight towards d5, but he was just one move too slow. And now after d5, I think black gets everything that they want in this opening. Just perfect, perfect setup. And of course now with the rook having this X-ray look against white's queen, there's not much choice. We got to take on d5. We see knight recapturing, and also he very quickly decided okay, that he is gonna do some recapturing and bring the other knight around to e3, which is followed by another exchange, and knight landing on c4, not on d5, and still also quick f5 move is played. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree what Tom's just mentioned, that it feels like such a good position for black. This time we also have evil bar, so we can see a little bit more clearly the evaluation indicated by the engine. So it slightly favors black, but yeah, this is what you want as black from the opening. You cannot usually hope for too much. It is step by step, so if you equalize and even get some slight advantage, it's fine. And yeah, this position, just even when you look at the pieces, all of the black pieces are already active. Rook in the center, queen and knight, bishop, rook on f8 as well, and pawns also are way more active for black. c5, e5, f5, getting a lot of space, controlling a lot of important squares. Meanwhile, for white, this is maybe not so easy. What favors white? I mean, hard to say favors, but at least there are already two pairs of minor pieces exchanged. So maybe the space is not going to be such a big issue, but it just feels like it's so comfortable for black to play. Yeah, now there is the question of this rook looking towards the queen. Some e4 move is hanging in the air, perhaps to open the bishop, put pressure on the d3 pawn. And white really has to solve some practical problems.
And it's not that easy to remove the queen from d1 as well, since knight is ready to jump to d4 wherever the queen goes and just keep attacking it.
Maybe bishop g5, attacking the rook first, and then something like queen c1 or queen... Yeah, maybe queen c1. You really don't want to be on the same file with this rook. It's such an unpleasant x-ray. Maybe queen c1 has to be played. Maybe we even go and exchange or try to exchange the bishop for the opponent's bishop, bishop h6 if we can.
We can't right now. Yeah, the knight comes immediately to d4, looks on the c2, and we can't even kick it out with c3, since knight b3 would be fork on the queen and a rook. So yeah, the position feels very, very cramped, and maybe it's not like completely hopeless, but it's very, very hard to play this kind of position, especially when you get it so early on in the game with white pieces that you are just already, you know that you're in a worse position. He realizes that he made some mistakes. He realized that he shouldn't have allowed d5. I mean, that was a very, very big oversight, because yeah, you just don't have anything that you want to have from with the white pieces happening here in the opening, and well, really, black just has everything.
Very natural game for the top seed here with the black pieces. I think he can be really satisfied. As we mentioned, he won quite quickly, not in 15 moves, but still it was a quick victory for him. and now he got also very fast a position that is really pleasant. So it's a promising position, but let's see how it's gonna develop. And let's jump to board number 2 to see second seed Grandmaster Kacper Piorun from Poland against another Lithuanian player. Lithuanians seem to be doing really well here, and we see more of them for now on the top boards than of Latvian players. Let's hope we're gonna see some locals as well in the top. But yeah, for now this is the board 2. Kacper Piorun with white pieces with the leafy shirt, and then we have Pius Stremavicius with the black pieces. That's, I guess, with some Caro-Kann position. Let's see board number 2. Yeah, we need the boards, live boards, and analysis board. And let's see, in a moment we are gonna get them. Kacper Piorun is, as always, super focused. It's so cool to see. He's so invested always in the position, right?
I think isn't everybody always invested in a position when they are by the board actually calculating?
I don't think there are different types of focus. He is intensely there. And yeah, let's try to see board number 2, the board as well of the second.
But also I think he's very, very happy with his position right now, because the way, as I mentioned, Pius likes to play in, let's say, in more original way. He doesn't like to go for the mainstream ideas. He likes to try to mix things up. But when you do that in a kind of known position, in known structure, it can backfire rather a lot. And what he's doing is he's trying, I think, very often to just play complicated game and play it fast, and just to reach this moment that the opponent is running kind of lower on time, and then that he's not able to maybe execute this advantage till the end. But sometimes it can backfire very heavily, and there tends to be also losses, very quick losses just out of the opening for this reason. And we see now as well very unusual setup. King coming to f7 voluntarily just early on in the game. White is controlling the center more, is ahead in development, and there's a king on f7. So I have a feeling that Kacper has to be very satisfied with his position right now.
Yeah, because there is really nothing wrong with White's position, right? All the pieces are in the center. You just have to probably decide whether you want to castle long or short, but you have the choice, and maybe even both are playable. I'm not sure still which one would I choose. I think long castle seems to be a bit more tempting in this position, since king for black is on f7, it's more on the king side. We could try to open some files there, and that means we want our king away from the open files. What do you think? Long castle?
I am not convinced on the long castle for some reasons that pieces actually could come forward. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you would need to have a clear idea what to do about queen b6. Do we defend the f2 pawn, or do we give it up?
I think we could try to give it up. I think f2 pawn is something we maybe don't mind to give up, since it's connected with opening f file. But f2 pawn is defending some important scores like e3 and g3, and maybe those would be annoying to give up. But still, I think it should be fine. Even king b1, perhaps.
And if you take on f2, then
Rook f1.
Rook df1, I assume?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in case we go something like
Maybe knight g3 is possible.
knight g3, I guess not really. But
Isn't it?
and we have the evaluation bar this time, so I just see it immediately that it jumps very, very high.
I think queen f2 is possible, and this knight will not escape from h1 afterwards. I think, queen f2 takes on h1 and rook f1, and the knight is gonna be captured as well. I'm not sure if this is what the evil bar means, but we are just humans. We can only try to guess, but I think this is at least fine for white.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, perhaps in this position though, instead of knight g3, we can play some moves like bishop d4. I guess also not really. But my idea was that here maybe we can manage to recapture with a knight, but I guess this is dangerous. Yeah, because we have no attack, and there could come some dangerous stuff, maybe with a pin on this, on the queen.
Yeah, there's so many ideas for white, and those pieces are just ready already for the middle game. While black is still with this knight on b8, rook on a8, still in the corner, not fully finished the first stage of the game, which is the opening. So yeah, black is a bit behind. Maybe this is an option. I think Kasper is thinking actually about where to castle, because it's one of the biggest questions that a player can ask, where to put the king. Do we have any other candidates? Can we try to punish opponents' play immediately, this king on f7?
I don't think immediately we are able to do it, and to do it immediately we do need to remove the king from e1, I think, and to be able to push on the e-file. Yeah, knight b3 was started to draw an arrow is another candidate, and he did play it. So the idea is that knight on d2 was doing nothing, and before deciding where to castle, we asked the question to bishop, where does it go? Does it go passive to defend the king, or does it try to stay active and go to a7? And I think if it goes to a7, then long castle becomes already way more attractive, because the bishop is looking just here, nowhere else. It has no other ideas to other side in any way, and it's in front of the rook, so that can potentially slow down an attack there. And another of our ideas here is we can take sometimes on f5 and just bring the knight over to d4, attacking the bishop and attacking the e6 point. So knight b3 I think is very, very practical, very good practically decision here.
Oh wow, I am so sorry, but I think we have to say that the game on board number 3 has just finished. I don't know if the players are still there, but I think if we can see quickly the camera from board number 3, do we still have them by the board? Maybe not. Either way, we have a very quick draw. Yeah, they're just standing up. Very quick draw. Understandable. This is the second round of the day. Kings are in the middle. This is to fix a draw. If you see the king from white side on the light square, from black side on the black square, that means the draw is fixed on the electronical board. And yeah, here we had Indian player a little bit lower rated, but with white pieces against the third seed of the tournament. And yeah, I guess I'm not sure whether there was a good preparation or somehow they didn't want to risk with the black pieces.
Well, the scenario was similar like in the first two rounds, that Altai Safarli played very, very solid opening without too much ambition to try for something much, and his opponent this time just played also very solid, just playing with white pieces, and yeah, so the draw was a very natural result in this kind of scenario.
And it's often the case, you see, the players don't want to risk too much with the black pieces, and then they want to push for a win with the white pieces, where white is starting the game. Maybe a little bit more pressure from the opening is possible to apply against your opponent, and yeah, this is a common strategy. But yeah, okay, so we have a first draw here. Let's actually see if we don't have any other results. No, I don't think so. So yeah, this is board number 3 draw. Do you want to go back to board number 2, or shall we take a look at board number 4? I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, let's take a look at board number 4, because there is something very, very unusual happening on the board there. And what is there unusual is that Paulius Putinevicius, playing with white pieces, seems to be out-prepared. He is down to 39 minutes against 1 hour 20 on the clock, and this kind of time situation in his games we usually don't see. And yeah, so what's here? White is pawn up technically, but black is trying to use the fact that these pawns are not connected, and knights have a lot of squares where to jump around. And so king is already in the safety, while this king is on e1. So both sides have some undeveloped pieces. So white has bishop and the knight, black has bishop and the knight, but yeah, for black those pieces are on the queen side where they are not doing that much. Like it's not that important just yet that they are not developed, while for the white it is essential to quickly develop them, or the king could end up being in danger. So let's take a very quick look what happened in the opening. How did he get surprised? So what was like this unusual opening played here? So he went for f3, and here we have d5, exchange. So here they were in the book, still in the book, and now after taking on c5, queen a5 was still quickly everything played. Bishop e3.
Actually, here black is spending a little bit of time.
Yeah. But a little bit. It could be also just choice of lines in this kind of scenario. And black quickly castles, and now white was out of book. Now white was already out of book, and was thinking how to develop pieces, how to set them up properly, if to go knight e2, if to defend the pawn with the queen probably, if maybe not to defend the pawn at all, but just to play something like king f2. And so he went for queen b3. Quick answer, queen c7. Look at that. Just seconds spent on queen c7. Interesting. And now a4 again after a little bit of thought, and knight ec6. Yeah, this is very interesting. And it's hard to imagine that he's playing knight ec6 without knowing this idea.
Yeah, that's our top female player.
My apologies.
With the black pieces. So yeah, I think it's really must be either her prep or just something maybe not for today's game, but maybe something she has worked on. So must be the idea that you're familiar with, because it is not the most natural move. The knight on e7 was already developed, so usually would like to maybe jump with the other knight, maybe even to a different square to attack the c5 pawn, for example, to d7 or a6, just to create some immediate pressure and the threat of just capturing the pawn on c5. So knight c6, you don't usually make such a move without being familiar, and so quickly as well.
And I assume that the idea of a4, first of all, was that after knight d7 we are able to play queen a3 to defend the pawn? Or perhaps no. At least as I see that by the evaluation bar that it does not agree with that. But it seemed like a very natural idea.
But maybe that was his idea, hard to say, because it makes sense.
Yeah, or just something else, like some idea that our knight d7 is actually not a good move. Maybe it spends too much time, and white manages to develop all the pieces just in time, and then they stay with two bishops. Yeah, it's very complicated position, very hard to say, but knight ec6.
Or maybe you go a5, claiming that after knight c5, queen c4 is there. It's not so easy to play b6 with that pawn on a5. Could that be?
Yeah, so b6 is not possible here due to taking, and we cannot recapture with the pawn since the rook would be hanging on a8. Yeah, that is a very nice idea, indeed. So yeah, and black knew this idea, I guess, and just simply answers knight c6. And now it's a lot of time spent on this move already.
How much time did Paulus Fultinavičius had before that?
1 hour 10, 1 hour 11 almost.
1 hour 10, and now on the live board he has 34 minutes. So he spent half of his time.
Wow. Just on deciding how to develop pieces.
35 minutes. 35 minutes on one move that is usually already, not just from the perspective of even time management, but just usually after so much time, you're not really thinking and calculating. Oftentimes we see after a long thought that players make mistakes. I'm not sure if this is what's going to happen now, but it is, I think, quite a lot of time. But why is he so uncertain how to continue? What doesn't he like? What would be the most natural way to proceed? Bishop b5 or knight e2?
I guess it's not clear where to put those pieces, especially the bishop. The light square bishop is a very, very big problem. And now we don't have a square on c4, we don't have a square on d3, and after, if we go bishop b5, again we are going to be hit by a6. And if we do decide to develop it to e2, then we don't have where to put our knight from g1 anymore.
Let's say we go to h3, maybe bishop e2 and he doesn't like e5, and that way black opens the bishop, so if knight h3 is played, then black could probably take, although it's still not so clear whether black wants to take it, because b7 could be weak in some cases.
That is very, very true. Yeah, not clear. And also the g file could open for attack against black's king, but even if we develop knight on h3, it's not clear if it's doing that good of a job.
Yeah, later knight f2, knight d3.
If we could get it till d5, it would be nice, but that is a very long way to go.
But if you don't want to take as black, maybe you don't go e5 as well.
Well, e5 is nice move also just to develop a bishop with a tempo, perhaps.
He did play knight e2, right? Knight e2 is on the board. Okay, finally, because that was a really long time to spend on one move.
And interesting to see if Will's gonna see a very quick reply from the player with black pieces or no, because so far we assumed that it was kind of preparation idea, and knight e2, it feels like the most natural move, right? Like that we are developing because it's the last moment to develop, and if this is the position that you have analyzed, then you must have looked at knight e2 at some point in some version.
Yeah, Vantika returned to the board. For now, she is not playing, but she could be just making sure. That is really interesting. Paulus doesn't feel like inspired. Like when you see him,
when you spend that much time on move, doesn't matter what's the position, what's the move. You just know that you are making a mistake, you know. Already in this moment, you're spending 10-15 minutes on a move, and you keep thinking, this is most often because you just can't make yourself to make the move. And
it's such a fight with yourself. Like at this point already, you're trying to talk to yourself, okay, I have to make a move, and then you can't really make the decision, and you start even being frustrated with yourself. So yeah, chess is often a fight against yourself. It's a mental fight, and yeah, if you cannot make a decision and you know the time is running, you know you should make a decision, it can be really frustrating. Okay, so for now, Vantika still is taking her time. Probably she's considering e5, which makes a lot of sense in this position as well, to limit the knight, taking away the d4 and f4 squares from this knight.
But it opens up the route for knight to f5.
Yeah, but it's something you consider probably.
Yeah, you have to consider it, but it's a hard consideration because f5 can be very, very important square, as this can be supported by the only active diagonal from the white's light square bishop. And
what other candidates do you think there are except e5?
I think knight d7, knight a5 could be one of the moves as well, asking the queen where does it go. I think actually that is a serious candidate in this position, since we can't go queen a3 anymore, as now the c4 square is no longer covered. And if we go something like queen b4, we will be hit by knight c6.
Maybe that was also one of the ideas of this knight c6 move, that now both of the knights are here on the queen side, attacking the queen, asking the queen, where are you going to go?
So perhaps queen a2 is the most natural move, so still keep control of the c4 square after knight a5. But then I would be very tempted to just play knight d7. And we still are so undeveloped with white. So let's say knight d4 now, knight can take on c5, and yeah, it's a very, very solid position. It's hard to claim any advantage thanks to two bishops, because the light square bishop is very, very passive, without much perspectives, and black is not a pawn down anymore, and all that's left to do is to develop the black's light square bishop and start pressuring on against the c pawn. Practically, I would like this position a lot from black pieces.
because when you look at the structure is actually pretty good for black. Black has only 2 pawn islands. Pawns are very solid, but for white, those pawns on the queen side, a4 pawn and c3 pawn, they are separately. They are not defending one another, and especially the c pawn, because it's on the open file. Black has open file. It's like a highway leading to this pawn that black can use to simply attack, especially with the rooks, with the queen, and this pawn could be a very serious weakness.
Yeah, so this will be certainly very, very interesting game to return to. It doesn't look like she is still exactly in the book, because she is spending already more than 5 minutes. So that's already safe to assume that maybe there are some ideas that she has seen, but she's not entirely sure which position was this line, which position was this line. So now she's, even if she, maybe just needs time to organize, maybe she's trying to figure it out. It's hard to say, but certainly we can also look at some other games, because she might be spending quite a lot of time on this moment in this move now. And especially in the situation when your opponent has spent so much time, very often players feel comfortable also themselves to start thinking more, because they know that doesn't matter, even if they think 10-15 minutes, they still have a big time advantage, and they're not feeling any pressure, to play quickly.
Yes, and I think from the next boards, the most exciting position is on board number 8, Evan Park against Painian. Board number 8, if we can see this one, because the position seems to be completely crazy. I don't know if you agree, but I think so. It looks very exciting, at least the first glance. Yes, that is the one, right? Yes, it must be this one. So we have last move, knight c6. It goes under the capture. Bishop can just take this knight. And knight c6 was just knight going to the empty square. It wasn't capturing anything. It just went there. So it's quite a funny move. What is going on here? What even is the material situation now?
Why are we playing knight? Oh, okay, now I get it. Okay,
yeah,
so
bishop c6, I think bishop b5 is coming, and that's the little but beautiful trick.
So we drew away the bishop from the defended square. No longer king is defending it. And now, in case bishop keeps taking, then we have already undefended rook. But if we would like to take here on a3, then we can take bishop c6 with a check, and next move only recapture the rook.
Yeah, and this is why knight c6 was played, so that this bishop from the black side would be on the c6 square, which is undefended, so if white captures it, black cannot capture back.
And we are not able to even play something like rook a8.
Rook c8, yeah.
Rook c8, just to defend the bishop, to try to stay a piece up. Oh, because we can take back the piece in this kind of manner. So we can play rook a8, rook c8, and now we have queen a4. Attacking here, here. So queen d7 would drop the rook immediately, since we can't recapture. And after king e7, I think we can just take... No, we can't. We can take first on c8, take, and I think then we can take back.
So we take the rook first, queen captures, we take on e4, and since black doesn't have now any tactical resources, it seems to be fine for white with the king on e7, with the possibility for white to castle immediately and just a faster development. So yeah, this is more or less the immediate tactics would show us.
Oh, or here we can't cover with rook c7 because queen d8, this is with a check. So we actually win big time.
That is even better.
And the king has nowhere to go. King coming to d5, but that is very, very uncomfortable. Already in this case with the rooks on the board, yeah, that's a big, big improvement for white. Wow, that is truly amazing tactical idea.
Knight c6. Wait, so how did it happen? Maybe we can see a couple of moves. That looks like some Sicilian variation, but how do you... very quick a4.
So this was actually Sicilian Najdorf, where after knight d7, which is one of the main moves in this position, white simply retreated back bishop e3. Like, that's it. Nobody was... just went bishop g5 to provoke knight d7 and went back.
Have you ever seen this idea?
No, I've never seen it before. I was looking at before we started the broadcast actually and was wondering what is the point. And now black very quickly, very ambitiously went b5, which is... I think it's exactly running into white's idea. It feels unnatural in these structures to be playing early b5 because we have no control of d5 square and we still give up the control of the c6 square. Me as a player, myself who plays neither quite often, yeah, this move was immediately screaming like...
it's too early.
It's too early. We are just not ready for it because we sometimes want to play in Sicilian b5 when some of our ideas include b4 and after knight d5 when we are ready to take the pawn on e4. But in these structures we are very far from being ready to take on e4 because knight c6 would just win our queen.
I think he was just confused because this bishop g5, going simply back bishop e3, knight bd7 is useful move in most of the neither variations. So he was just probably thinking, how can I punish my opponent for going with the bishop and then for no reason retreating back? So b5 is, sometimes you want to play actively, you want to play aggressive. If you see your opponent making some careless moves, and maybe he wanted just to push for that. Here f5 is, I guess, also knight f5, and white is using the fact that knight is on d7, so...
You mean knight f... Oh, okay, so the idea that d6 pawn could be hanging.
Yeah, and compared to position where knight is on b8, now on knight on d7, even though it's developed, but it's covering the bishop, so bishop cannot capture on f5.
Okay, so this is some very interesting opening idea. I will have to check it out.
This is tricky. We can steal this opening idea as well. Wow. And this is the beauty of chess. This is the beauty of some creative ideas. Maybe, it's not like the best, but it puts practical pressure on your opponent. And it's everything. It's about practical play. Your opponent has to now solve this by the board. There is no access to engine. He cannot prepare. He just has to figure something out in a slightly changed position. It might feel like knight on b8 or knight on d7 is not such a big deal. It should favor black because black has additionally developed piece. But there are some changes and white is trying to use them. But so let's see what happened. a4.
So he's immediately going for this idea that if b4 then we just go knight d5, I guess. And... oh no, we just take the pawn. We just take the pawn, right. So there's no b4 even to consider. So yeah, we force the taking, and this is... most of the time when this happens, white is doing well. White is doing well, there's pressure on a6, there's pressure on the weak light squares, and we don't have to worry about b4 in none of the lines, so e4 pawn is kind of safe. But he went to take it anyways. Wow, okay.
And so now, okay, so black captures the pawn, black wins the pawn, white captures there on e4, knight exchange. So black takes the pawn, but it is very risky. A lot of weak squares, especially those light squares around black, are pretty weak. So now white, I guess, took back on a6 in a moment.
Yeah, he could also take back on a6 immediately if he played bishop b5, forcing bishop d7 and then taking on a6. But he chose to develop another piece, queen a1. I'm not sure about this move because it should give time for black to develop. But yeah, black just went directly for hitting the knight. And now bishop a6. Bishop a6, I guess, was exactly this idea of knight c6 after a lot of thought. We saw bishop d7 played and now knight c6 move. Of course, this is chess, not checkers, and we are not forced to take on c6. So we have some other moves to play. I mean,
yeah, queen is hanging, so if other move, then it has to be a queen move.
Queen c7, I wonder what is the idea? Maybe bishop b5 anyways? No, that can't be. Seems to be... yeah, it doesn't do anything. We can just take. And queen a8 doesn't do anything because we have king d7 simply defending the bishop. So, what is his idea on queen c7? Where is the knight going?
But also he has got to play it. It's quite interesting that he's been spending so much time because it feels that bishop c6 simply loses on the spot. So if you cannot play it, you have to go queen c7. And queen c7, is it on the board? I think so. Yes, he just played queen c7. Okay, so...
perhaps knight b4 now, with the idea to get the knight regrouping to the very beautiful d5 square.
Yeah, knight is attacked twice, so I guess we have to move it, and b4 is the only safe square. And yeah, and it is looking at the d5. It's guarding the c2 pawn. In some cases could be captured. Black doesn't have any attacks, right? So some natural move like bishop e7, most likely still not good because of knight d5, unless you want to do it.
No, it seems wrong. Oh yeah, there might be bishop d3, just hitting. So if we can take on c2, then definitely we don't want to do it, because this is unpleasant, since the moment that bishop is attacked on e7, we can't castle anymore. Regardless of what we do, we will still need another move to castle, and it's very, very likely that white can improve the position, and we have to watch out constantly on this tactics on the a file. There can be some moves with the bishop backwards and everything collapsing on the a file. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting position that has developed. Knight b4 played almost immediately, and will be I'm very curious what is the move to now play from the black side, how to stay in this game. Maybe to remove the rook from the a file, not to have to deal with those tactics. Though still, knight d5 could be just so deadly.
But he already played knight b4, by the way. So this is on the board, and now again, difficult decision for black. It's interesting because if we see the ratings of the players, it is white that has 200 points lower rating, but he is pushing in very interesting practical ideas. That's very cool to see.
Yeah, but that's also the thing about the modern chess nowadays, that everybody has access to the engines, to the all sorts of opening files, opening ideas, and this is one part of the game that people can prepare the most easily, and that's why we often see a lot of grandmasters choosing to go not for the main lines, but for some lines that can surprise his opponents, just for the perspective that they want to play chess. They don't want to play who did a better homework. And because you can end up in the situations of very, very...
we just saw a cool t-shirt. Walking cool kids play chess. That was a nice t-shirt. But yeah, I completely agree with you. When you play against someone even lower rated, but if they end up better prepared against the game, this rating difference is not really there, maybe at all, maybe it's not as big, but you are facing engine, at least for a while, not your opponent really. Now knight b4, I think it's quite a nice position for white, especially from the practical point of view.
He played
Knight
f6. Okay, that
f6.
makes sense. This knight was hanging in some lines, and we just control the d5 square. That is a very, very logical move. Such a safe regrouping move, just making sure we have less pieces hanging, so it means less tactics possible, and we deal with the most direct threat of opponent. And if we do castle now, then I think black is ready to play just bishop e7 as well. But anyways, I like white's position. I think it has a lot of potential, because those pawns on the queen side, they could get moving, while the central pawns, I don't think they have very much importance now. Even moves like c4, just to take control of the d5 square, castles, and perhaps something like rook c1, and just very easy flow of the game from the white side, I think.
Yeah, it seems so. Maybe this bishop on a6 will end up being a little bit off, and those pieces actually on the side. Let's see. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting game. And now we can probably take a look at the next one. If we are already on board number 8, maybe we can see board number 9. We have a top Latvian player, Nikita Meshkovs, playing with white pieces against Yomon Yinan. Let's see. This player has no title, but he's from India, and yes, here everyone is on a perfect score, so for sure a dangerous player. Okay, so this is the live board. Queen f3 was just played. Unusual structure by the black king. We have destroyed pawns around the king. So queen is immediately going there towards those squares, maybe towards g5, maybe towards h3.
Yeah, in the beginning of the game, Nikita had a very, very big time advantage. He was playing very quickly. He had prepared this idea, and he played Trompowsky, which is actually very surprising for me to see him play. Not one of his main openings, but maybe just some interesting idea that he had seen and that he thought could work against this particular opponent.
And as you said, oftentimes grandmasters want to escape the prep of the opponent. So if it's not his main line, it makes sense that his opponent didn't have enough time to prepare. From the morning, there were only like 1.5 hours since the pairings appeared, something like this, till the start of the game. So there wasn't that much time. It is hard to play chess, as we see by the player. But yeah, they didn't have so much time to prepare. So yeah, it makes sense to play some little sideline, let's say. But the position seems to be quite tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky. So the idea of this position is that black does have a pair of bishops, but for that they have somewhat ruined pawn structure, and white is trying to keep the game kind of semi-closed and trying to maybe create some outposts for the knights and to use the strength of knights in this kind of way that position is more closed and they can just maneuver around and maybe try to just neutralize bishops, especially with this particular setup that black chose. There's a big question what to do with the bishop on c8, since most of the pawns are on the light squares and we really would like to play b6 to develop bishop somewhere to the other side, because then at least it has some purpose. And but this was the moment till what white was playing quickly and black was already thinking, spending a lot of time. And now after castle, this is where Nikita started to think. So castle is not the move that he was ready for. So maybe he was ready for some moves like bishop a5, stopping knight from coming to c7. Not sure. But after some thought, he chose to play a3. I can totally understand this move. It makes a lot of sense, because now, after bishop a5, one thing that is happening is we are probably not going to play b6 anymore. So what are we going to do with the bishop from c8?
And also bishop on a5 cannot join the king side in case, let's say, rook e8 was ever there and bishop f8 could sometimes join, or bishop e7, bishop f6, anyways, just joining the king side, maybe defending the king. Here bishop already committed to standing a little bit more on this side. So queen f3 was chosen by Nikita after quite some time of thinking. And they are basically equal on the clock now. He decided to just go towards the king side now. Maybe because this bishop is no longer able to come back. This is a really tricky position. It's not easy to make decisions, I think, for both of them.
So one big thing is now that there is bishop d2 possible, but probably you don't want to do that, since you do give up one thing that was your advantage in the position. Dark square bishop was the main piece, the strongest piece that you had, and now you're just left with equal material with a bad piece, ruined structure by the king. And since the center is kind of closed, the king on d2 is not a problem at all. Maybe it's even helpful, because with g4 we can quickly open up the game and just get all the rooks in attack against the black's king.
Yeah, I think he will not take. That would be very surprising decision. King on d2 feels perfectly safe in this position. There are no pieces that can attack it. But then what do you do as like knight f6?
Knight f6 I think is very natural looking, since we have to keep developing somehow. We free up the square at least for the bishop on d7, and in the same time we are sometimes looking for knight e4 ideas and maybe asking some questions to the knight on d2. But here, of course, white has a choice also to do something like this. Looks kind of strange.
Yeah, but then queen... Yes, this is what I was looking at. The queen is in the center. It should be possible to just easily kick it out of there. But actually black doesn't have an easy way. And white could even try to play something like h3 and g4, maybe. Okay, I'm not sure if this is not too easy, but...
Yeah, and here in case of a6 we don't go knight d6, but we go knight c7, since still you probably don't want to take here. You have this very, very sad bishop on c8, and you don't want it to be your only bishop in this position. And in case of move like rook a7, I assume b4 could be a move, pushing the bishop back, and now there is no way to attack it using the rook on a7. And that is very, very dreamy position for...
Yeah, there are no moves, and the queen on e5 is pinning the knight, very powerful position for white here. Maybe even g4 immediately. You can go and do some funny things, or h3, g4, push the pawns forward, open the king side, and rook can join the game. And
that is, of course,
dangerous.
if some tactics like this are not working. Taking with an idea that you can take with the knight, you can take with the queen, and if you take with the pawn, then we can recapture on c8, forcing the queen away, then we again have a check, and then we keep taking. And now the pawn structure is completely destroyed. We have to play something rook a8, and we could just develop castle and collect all the pawns with the minor pieces.
Queen c1 first, king e2, and then...
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, this looks also really
maybe h4, rook h3, rook g3, and we checkmate.
Yeah, this seems tough. So probably knight f6 is actually not exactly playable, even though it looks very natural. But it will be very awkward there on f6 after queen e5.
Maybe just king g8 though.
So still.
Just releasing the... getting out of the pin.
And if h4, then to bring the rook to h3 and the rook g3.
That seems to be very, very slow somehow. Because we have knight g4, always we have knight g4. Yeah, but this position is very, very fun out of nowhere. Suddenly there are so many interesting tactical lines to consider. It looked like kind of closed center position without anything very, very concrete happening, but yeah, there's things to worry about. And maybe in this position, actually, that was a3, that's why it was very, very clever move, and the best practical move here was bishop e7 for black, even though on e7 it doesn't do much immediately, but it's just there, it's near the king, it's covering those dark squares around the king, and yeah, and then we can make sure that opponent's queen can't attack there so easily, and probably there can be no dangerous attack whatsoever as long as our bishop is controlling the dark squares. But as the moment the bishop goes away, it commits to a5, exactly like Anna pointed out. It can't join anymore in the kingside defense, and that's why queen f3 is... Yeah, I like this move. I like this move. The more we look at this position, the more tricky it becomes to find any moves here from the black side. I mean, maybe a6, but again, just... We could be first faced with the same problem of knight c7, I think.
Queen g3, that's a check, right? And then knight c7.
Or there is some rook g8 problems, or... Or in this case, do we manage to attack it? In this case there's f4, okay. f4 and now e5 attacking the queen and losing the control over the c7.
But that's beautiful. Okay, so knight on c7 needed to be defended by the queen, so black is just finding a way how to cut off queen from defending the knight, and then it will be captured by the bishop. Okay, so this bishop is doing something there on a5.
But it can actually go to d6, due to the fact that bishop c7 loses to rook takes c7, queen takes c7, and knight f7, with winning the queen.
Okay, that's pretty.
So yeah, this is rich position, and will be interesting to see what is the next move. What does black player here figure out what to do? Because there are some tactical things that you have to calculate on every single one of those lines, and that's understandable why he has already spent 15 minutes on this move, which is almost 1/3 of the time that he had, and he keeps still thinking, because yeah, you can just end up in a lost position. Like if you choose the wrong move right now, yeah, as we already did ourselves a few times, we just ended up in a lost position with black pieces.
Yeah, wow, this is tricky, and he went king h8. Look, so he goes away from, sometimes those checks were coming, he just removes the king, and well, there are not gonna be any checks on the g file, not for now, and now Queen g3 is still an option, I think, but maybe there is even something more. Maybe g4 probably is a bit too much, or is it?
Or the g4 is probably too much, yeah, because we're just opening the game for black. Black prepared for playing on the g file, and we are just forcing him out of this bad pawn structure. But what about some moves like queen f4, just, Okay, now we don't need to go to g3, but we can still do the same job, maybe from a better square, where the rook can't attack it, and just control those d6, c7 squares, making sure that knight has to stay on d7. If knight has to stay on d7, then the bishop stays on c8. If bishop stays on c8, then the rook stays on 8. So it's like a chain reaction of bad pieces just by this move queen f4, and then soon we might be ready to develop. Maybe bishop d3 and then g4 will come, or maybe h3, g4 with a big attack along the h7 pawn.
Yeah, I like this move, and I think this could be also one of the reasons why Nikita already plays the queen on f3 to take some of those dark squares under control. This looks really nice. Meanwhile, we have another draw, not on one of the very top boards, but board 18th. Michał Rudolph against Kandurak, and those players both, I think, are fine with a draw. I think there was slight advantage of the rating on the player with the black pieces, but yeah, I think he didn't want to push too much with his black color. Here we have the players on some of the lower boards, but still one of the top boards, I think. Which board could it be? This is board number 20. So not our stage, but still players with a perfect score for now.
And as mentioned, it's expected in this round already to have quite a lot of draws, as the matchups are getting more and more equal in strength. And maybe we can take a look at one of the other top boards, board 5, where we have Krzyż Jakub from Poland playing against Tomasz Lauruszas.
It's easy for me to pronounce. It's a Polish surname. Yeah, it's a tricky one for the commentators, I guess. So, it's one of the talented junior players from Poland, rated 2368, and he is facing one of the top Lithuanian players, Tomasz Lauruszas. Rated 2571. Yes, this is the pair that we are talking about. There are the cups behind them. They're fighting for those trophies in the tournament. We have some rather typical, I think, position from the Sicilian with short castles. I play those positions, similar ones, especially from the black side, couple of times from the white side. So let's try to figure out, because of course in those types of positions you see kind of similar structure, but then you have to figure out, okay, but what is different compared to what I know? Maybe some placement of the pieces is a bit different, so let's see.
And both players are spending a lot of time for kind of a known structure, so maybe there's really some difference in the move orders or something. And why I wanted to pointed this game out is because we again have Tomasz trying to survive some attack in Sicilian from the black side, the same like we saw in round 1. In round 1 it went very well for him, he won the game, but it was exciting, very, very exciting. At some point we thought that he's in trouble. I guess we overestimated this attack a little bit, and now again his opponent is coming at him, and we can expect some fireworks very, very quickly, I think. And the question is, well, is he in trouble this time or no?
I think not. Okay, so this g6 move, it sometimes feels that after you play g6, you're weakening those squares around your king. So now dark squares around the king are a bit... we see Thomas walking. Oh, that's cool that we have such a view. And...
returning to the game with a coffee.
Yeah, that's important. Important part of chess game. So... g6, yes, let's go of those dark squares, but black has a bishop on e7 that can go to f6 or to f8 to control those squares, so it's quite a typical way for black to actually cover both the knight and h7 square. So now this bishop from d3, it was looking all the way toward the h7 pawn, towards the king, but now it's blocked. And yeah, this is, I think, actually rather typical. It feels like white is attacking, and actually they are trying to build up the attack on the king side against the king, but black has a lot of nice ideas, counterattacks in the center, d5, e5 attacks, sometimes knight can exchange on d4, bishop can come to c6, and it feels maybe black is a little bit passive, but then those pieces counter-attack and they find very good squares as well. White has to be quite careful not to create too many weaknesses.
So, is g4 a move that we play here, or is that creating weaknesses like you were mentioning?
Yeah, so g4 is a typical way to try and attack, but it can backfire because you're creating this weakness, at least a potential weakness, since in chess, a weakness is something that opponent can attack. So here the question is, can black really do anything about the fact that white king is a bit more exposed now? So let's say in some scenario, bishop from d7 comes to c6, then there is this x-ray all the way toward the king. But g4 is, of course, very aggressive, kicking the knight away, getting a lot of space, maybe preparing f5 sometimes, maybe queen h6, rook f3, right? Rook h3.
Yeah, and then we just go for a checkmate. So what do we do here? Do we play knight f6? That seems wrong. That seems just running under some attacks. And or is there some way to, after g4, to use this pin on the queen?
But how did it happen? Okay, so this is how it happened. You mean e5?
Yeah, in one or the other version there's just to play e5. So one version is to take on d4 and then play e5, or other version is to play e5 immediately. So.
But if you take on d4, could black not take on d4 but take on h5?
That is, of course, a serious move to consider. But maybe still e5? No, f5, then it's gonna be kind of powerful, right?
f5? And it seems like white is comfortable. But he played something else. Did he go f5? I think he went f5, which is another move I was considering because,
No, he went e5.
E5? But e5, are you...
Usually black is feeling, I think, very comfortable whenever we get this exchange of those two pawns. At least that is... I don't know the structures probably so deeply like you do, but that is the part that I always felt like whenever analyzing those positions, that whenever we play e5 and the pawn becomes exchanged there and weak, there is not much that white can do anymore.
I think not exactly, so at least from what I know. That is a danger, that pawn on e5 can become a weakness. In general now black can take, and I guess white has to include capture on c6 to remove the knight. Otherwise knight could take back on e5. So now after white takes on e5, the pawn, it is an isolated pawn. As you see, there are no other pawns for white next to it, so it doesn't have any friends to defend it, which could mean that it will become a weakness later on. For now, it gives white some space. It gives control of the f6 square, opened file, gives white some potential attacks on the f7. So it's just a little bit like, it's aggressive move, and then the question is whether attack or initiative is going to be enough, or black is gonna be solid, manage to defend, and white is gonna stay with the weak pawn on e5. It's something for something, I guess.
I guess, but I would play here with black. I would feel already much more comfortable than a moment ago, because the attack is gonna for sure be much slower right now. It's gonna be Not so tactical. We don't have to consider all the possible pawn breaks. There's no g4 anymore. There's no f5 anymore. So it's just about piece play. So we can get this relative control of the position.
Yeah, here g4 isn't. Yeah, that's true. I was thinking if we could somehow get g4 on the board, though, it could be also fun with like rook f7, queen h7. But yeah, there is this bishop on c6.
And maybe even b4 is something to consider here if we want to bail out completely. Since after exchanges we can just take and probably double the pawns on the c file, and it should be relatively safe. Of course, the a6 pawn could be dropped, and then in the positions like this we could even consider capture, and just to try it, to stand it out, claiming that okay, the position is not pretty, but it is very, very solid.
Is it all forced? After e5, maybe we can take a look again. It was just played, and also I was looking at the camera feed. Jakub Herzy from Poland, he seems like pretty confident, like he's, you know, chilled, even though he's playing against a very strong Grandmaster. So is there something maybe different? Black takes, unless he wants to take on e5. After all, not to include this capture on
Well,
c6.
we can consider also this, and this as an option, maybe.
But that is usually good for white. If you get e5 and d5, then white just has this e5 pawn, but now it's not even a weakness, and that gives white a lot of attacking ideas on the king side.
So what other option there could be?
No,
Just not
I
taking
think
now on e5, right? Just doing some other move?
No, but I don't think black should take on d4. Is it good? Isn't it improving bishop for white? Shouldn't black just take on e5?
Yeah, that's the line we were looking at. Just
Yeah.
and then it's forced because
White cannot take on e5? Yeah, this is what I was asking. Yeah, this is not possible.
this is just a pawn, I would say. He did take on d4.
He took on d4. Oh no, this is... Why though?
Maybe after he takes on d4, he doesn't need to take on e5, and he's gonna just play, yes, a move, exactly, bishop c6.
Okay.
So he's playing the same position without open f-file, just because if you do take on d6, that certainly is good for black, because now there's just a weakness on f4, and there are no weaknesses in black's position. So maybe that's an attempt to play more for a win, more for complications from the black side here.
And now is f5 an option, since e pawn can take, but g pawn is not really able to capture on f5 because knight is hanging on h5, queen is attacking it, and so if black does take with the e pawn, we just take with the bishop. Asking black, are you gonna take with the g pawn, or maybe I have some interesting attacking ideas with e6.
Yeah, taking looks to be very, very dangerous, because now all the pieces are working, the bishops have opened up, and this would be pretty great for white.
So what do you do after f5?
Probably take on e5.
Just like that, not caring too much about the attack.
Since if you do take, then I can play some move like f6. And so it means that I don't need to care about an attack here.
Oh. All right. Yeah, taking on e6 was with an idea to include capture on f7 with a check and fork, but f6 destroys this idea.
So you're probably forced to take back with a bishop. And now we have some time.
But it's still, there is some pressure. And still, after capture on f5, bishop takes, and I think those two bishops are quite unpleasant for the rooks. But maybe, again, black doesn't really mind.
Just plays bishop d6, perhaps, to have a rook defending on e6. And there are no attacking pieces from the white side.
And if taking on g6...
Then we're just gonna take hg.
Where is the attack? Come on. I mean, still there are some tricks. If we somehow manage to sacrifice the rook for the knight, rook f7 doesn't work, yeah? Bishop g6.
Yeah, this feels like we don't have attacking pieces. Yeah, so it just... okay, the position is certainly very, very complicated, very double-edged, but I think after the c5 move, and this what got played, also black gets realistic chances for to already start thinking how they're gonna play for a win, how they're gonna find.
F5 is on the board. F5 is on the board, but yeah, I think I agree with Tom's. It could be that now black, especially that it is the player we know is very solid. Tomas Laurusas, he can play really like stone chess, and he is not as moved, I think, about this attack like maybe some less experienced player would have been. So if he just stays cool, he can just defend and then counter-attack.
Yeah, or just use the back that he gets some better endgame, some better structure. He doesn't even need an attack. Yeah, for him, it's enough just to have positional, some sort of advantage which he can exploit. Even just bishop on c6, looking at white's king through g2 pawn can be already enough positional thing to be just already pushing if he removes all the central pawns here.
Meanwhile, we have another draw on the 7th board. Ajay Krishna made a draw with Antal Gergely. So as Tom's mentioned, some draws are coming in this round. It's quite common actually when we have double rounds as well to see a little bit more draws in the open tournaments. Maybe we can switch, since this f5 move, it looks quite exciting. Now both players will have to figure out how to continue. Maybe we could actually take a look at board number 13, where we have international master Elin Roberts. She is one of the top female players in the world in under 18 category. So another star that we have here in Riga. She participated in one of the most elite tournaments, Tata Steel, at the beginning of the year. She's there. She's playing against Almu Tayah, international master. But yeah, she's also international master. She is playing here with the white pieces, and this position is again a very interesting situation around the king. There are no pawns. Is there some big trouble?
I think that there was simply a big blunder by white, since this is just a free pawn. Just a free pawn that got collected on h2. And now white will need to go all in on the attack against black's king, because if they don't succeed, then the king is just weak, and there's just a pawn missing.
Yeah, I think we can show this tactic was quite nice. What happened here from the black side? Black plays knight g4 here. It actually felt like white is doing great with this strong center, both pawns in the center. But now after knight g4, there's suddenly so many attacks. h2 and queen on f2 is hanging, and after queen h4, knight takes h2. It feels like white has enough defenders on h2. But knight takes h2 is about removing the h2 pawn, because h2 pawn is defending the g3 square. So she didn't capture, but had she, then bishop g3 is coming, and that's a double attack on the queen and on the rook.
Yeah, so this would be immediately lost, and I think just that this whole setup here from the white side, because how this happened is, in this moment after a5, there was still pawn in front of this diagonal, so it might feel like, okay, when you look at these positions from the distance, there is no danger, everything is protected. Yeah, but it comes down to the fact that when we look at this position, black has completely developed everything. Like, they are fighting for the center, there are rooks on the two central files, and all four minor pieces are developed, while white still has a bishop on c1. Bishop on c1, f-pawn missing, and just while the position looks interesting, because there was nothing wrong is being done by black, Here, then tactics start to happen because there's something that's been done wrongly with white. Just breaking some little principles, and all of a sudden there's taking, opening up this diagonal, and knight coming, attacking the queen, and winning the pawn.
Actually, it could be that rook e1 was one of the mistakes. So it's such a logical move, just putting the rook on the central file, defending the central pawn as well. But then this rook goes under different kind of tactics, like mainly bishop g3, attacking it. And yeah, it seems to be trouble, maybe even a lost position. Is it so bad, would you say?
Yeah, I think it is very bad. Very much due to this bishop on c1, which he can't get in a game quickly. And if he try to go for something knight c4, like knight c4, there are options maybe simply to play bishop f4 and just to take control of those squares. There's no way to use the center. Now the d4 pawn is also going to be weak. We can't defend it in any way. Bishop has to be exchanged. So black, even though black is pawn up, he still has target switch to attack. So this means that yeah, it is very dangerous. And the moment the queen is joining in the attack, or the rooks, also the king on g1 without any defender, any pawn defending it, will become a very serious weakness. So yeah, I think that this position is practically basically lost, unless there are some tactics that are kind of missed, or some you know, some tricky swindles made and so on. Yeah, it should be just a very bad position already.
Yeah, but very nice tactic also by black. So let's see, is there some board you would like to see, or should we go back to the top boards?
We can return to the top boards.
Should we see board number 1, or come back to our leaders and see the development there?
Yeah, we can see that. If Nicholas is managing to capitalize on the advantage that he got from the opening, or...
Yeah, we left this game a couple of moves back, and I think it looks quite dangerous for white indeed, at least again at the first glance. Bishop e5 has just been played. There are some tricks, and what is the idea if white simply captures this bishop? Wait, I don't see still.
I still haven't caught up with the position, but...
Let's see, the time is very comfortable for Nicolas Todorov, the top seed of the tournament. He's on 50 minutes against 21. And yeah, bishop e5 has just been played, and that seems to be a very strong move. We see the evil bar is dropping. It's pretty dark. So that means that black is doing fine, more than fine. What is happening after knight takes e5? Because white probably has to take, otherwise black is almost checkmating on h2. Bishop of the queen attacking together on the dark square diagonal.
Can we just take back on e5? And use the fact that white is unable to develop further?
So easy.
So knight e2 is coming, and just connected with knight g3 forks, just completely destroying the position. So we can't play anything like bishop h6 because knight e2, and then knight g3 fork is coming in the next move.
Oh yeah, knight e2. King has only one square. King has to go to h1, and then knight g3 is a fork.
So I think that there's simply no stopping knight e2. That is the whole point here.
So is it winning? Is it already...
Rook e1, then...
Queen g3?
Perhaps just queen g3?
And that way knight f3 is a threat?
Supposedly queen g3 is not the strongest move, still with an advantage, but there must be some winning tactic in this position.
Maybe knight f3 immediately. Because...
Wow, knight f3 immediately. That is nice. So if you go here, it's a checkmate.
It works. It seems to be working. The evil bar confirms. And now white can take. The pawn wasn't pinned, but the queen comes to g3 anyway. After king goes to h1, I guess we clean some pawns, and then we bring the rook to the attack. and it should be game over. Maybe queen g3 as well.
Maybe it's first queen g3, yeah. But just the idea, it is probably impossible to mess this position up because there are no defenders. Those guys are not playing. And there are no pawns defending as well.
Oh wow, but how did it become so bad? Because look, it seems that black is already in a situation where the attack is very advanced. Meanwhile, white is still struggling, even with development. The rook and the bishop are still undeveloped.
Well, we left the position in this very uncomfortable position, where black is behind in development, and black has a full control of the center, of the open files, and still got played move like f3, which is looking very, very anti-positional. And now after e4, he got hit by queen g3 idea. I guess this is what he missed, and now all of a sudden there are a lot of threats on the dark squares, probably connected with bishop d4, probably connected with simply knight d4, knight f3, and just opening up the game in this kind of manner. Okay, even though white is pawn up, he is way behind the development, and now he tried to exchange some stuff, give back the pawn with move e5, and got an answer f4. f4 just further improving the position, wanting to play f3, so just to checkmate, and we are not able to play moves like queen f3 since the rook on e1 is not protected, it's hanging. So this here we see the price for not developing pieces. Like, just when opponent starts attacking, we are not able to anymore get out with our other pieces because something somewhere is not protected, there is no coordination, there is no harmony between the pieces. And yeah, now after rook f1 there was a next attacker joining the game. And knight d2 is the kind of move that you want to make only if you are completely desperate and not clear what to do, because this is like your only active piece, and instead of trying to make another piece active, you are bringing around this one piece, and I guess there are just too many threats, too many ideas, and it felt like knight needs to come to help in defense, but that just meant that black can strengthen the attack even further. And yeah, here this very nice tactical idea, tactical slash strategical idea, I would say, I guess, just to open up the dark square diagonal and to force...
Just a blowing up idea, you know, just open everything up. Killer move.
And this is the position on the board already, and yeah, and this is safe to assume that this game is probably over.
I really like this idea of bishop e5 because it is a little counterintuitive, especially for a player like me. I like the bishop, so I would be thinking, how can I join this bishop to the attack, not allow my opponent to exchange it? So I would be thinking maybe I exchange the knight and later bring the bishop. But actually it turns out that this exchange, even though white managed to take this strong bishop, it doesn't help, and now a strong defender, the knight from f3 was exchanged, and actually our knight on d4 is dominating the position. So many threats, so many weak squares around the king, and it just feels like white is a couple of moves behind with everything.
Yeah, I mean, undeveloped pieces, that is the price you pay, and it's really beautiful bishop e5. You don't see often this kind of move, this kind of idea being the killer tactical blow. So yeah, very, very instructive, because bishop from g7 was the one piece that was not playing, and we just basically exchange it for the main defender. We force opponent to exchange it, and the position collapses.
Yeah, and it's also so kind of strange that queen on g3 was supposed to be great, right? That was supposed to be a perfect square for the queen, and now queen was drawn back to e5, so it should be improvement for white. And it turns out that it's not, so it's very easy to miss, I think, to even probably you do see bishop e5, but you think, okay, but I take. And I also wasn't even looking at queen e5. I was thinking maybe some moves forward, but yeah, just queen e5, and this queen on e5 is controlling the e2 square, so now the knight is threatening to jump there with a check. And
I think we are going to see the end of the game with rook e1, knight f3, because it's hard to find any other reasonable move here from the white side that feels like maybe you have any chances whatsoever. So you just gotta try rook e1, and that's it. Because anything else just drops too much material and the advantage is just too clear. So you just see it, play it, and you see, okay, knight f3 works, doesn't work, opponent sees it, doesn't see it, but This is like literally your only chance. Maybe opponent plays queen g3 before or something. Maybe you can give up an exchange for a pawn.
And what was the difference? If rook e1, queen g3 is played instead of knight f3, for some reason, as you see, the evil bar went up, so it's a bit more white now. Is there rook e3?
No.
Do you go back rook f1? No.
We could try to give up an exchange somehow for the knight.
But then king h1, knight f3 anyway. That doesn't change much.
That is very true. And how do we then give up something?
What about rook e3? Queen f2 check. And after king moves away, I guess knight c2 is there. Although still not
Then
so
there's
easy.
rook e2, yeah.
E2. Maybe somehow white is holding, and even more than holding now.
Okay, this is not possible because we just take it. So
yeah, this may be still playable.
this, yeah, still would be somehow we are staying in the game. Maybe queen takes c2 is the move here, but still, yeah, it's not game over.
Okay, let's keep an eye on this game. I will try to make sure that we come back to it if some decisive moves are made. Let's try to see board number 2. I think there we might see... I wanted to say we might see a draw, but now that I look at it, maybe I am wrong. Let's see. We have an endgame, but actually maybe it's just...
How did they get to this?
Maybe it's just good.
But certainly this is a big improvement for black from the position that we left. It looked like it's gonna be dangerous, but Kasper didn't go for your idea with the long castle. He went for the more calm approach with short castle, and I guess it did not work out as great as he wanted to, because opponent also launched some counter attack. So what did we have there?
But a lot of development here. We have quite an advanced endgame. As you see, the material count is equal, but one difference that we have is that white has a dark square bishop on e5 and black has a light square bishop. And those different color bishops, they create a lot of tricks. On the other hand, they can create a lot of drawish possibilities, because one side, in this case black, is defending, but they can just try to defend on the light squares, and they have one more piece because they have the bishop. So maybe he's just gonna manage to somehow block it all out. It is a bit dangerous with this pawn on f6. I think some rook g1, rook coming to g7 could be deadly, but maybe black can just stop it always with rook g8.
Yeah, I think that black has to be doing fine already now. And it's hard to believe that this could be really dangerous, because like the idea, probably the main one is somewhere king f4, king g5. That's why also b3 was played to control the c4 square. There will be no rook checks, but it just feels like it shouldn't be enough, because even if you were ever to threaten rook g7, I could just stop it with bishop g6, and there are no squares how to break in at all. And you have to worry that d pawn can also start rolling, especially if it gets to d3, then it's already one dark square away from everything. And rook g8 was played. But that gives up the c-file, doesn't it? Don't we lose the control of the c-file, kind of, after rook c1 in the next moves? Or
Isn't king f4 more natural?
More natural. I didn't want to let the rook to come to g2, but actually it's very natural to let it come to g2, because anyways we can pin down the bishop. And it can't go away, and there are no active things that the rook could do, and we still have a lot of improving moves that we could do here from the white side.
A lot? What moves can we make?
King go, bishop d4, king here.
Okay.
That is... I think that's a big progress. And we can never move the bishop from c2, because rook c7 will be just a deadly blow.
It's always tricky for me with those different color bishops. You can kind of push, but then the drawish possibilities are so rich for the defending side, sometimes coming out of nowhere, sometimes even in positions when you're a pawn or 2 pawns up. But yeah, white seems to be pushing for now, and king f4 is on the board.
Yeah.
Black also answered something very quickly, a5.
Yeah, that's very interesting in this position, how it happened. There was just a kind of regular looking position, and now Black Gold went for such a nice tactical idea that, yeah, attacking with the queen first and using the fact that the queen and the king is on the same file, and now we get to the send game. And also it's funny that according to the engine now in the net game, according to the evaluation bar, they are playing mistake on every single move. But humanly, of course, those positions are completely approached differently than you would always see it on the according to the engine.
But is king f4 a mistake as well?
No, king f4 is a good one. Rook g8 was a big mistake.
And so what was needed instead? Is there some logical explanation?
I guess now we don't manage to control the c file anymore, and in this moment if we were to play bishop f5 or bishop g6, something like this, then there is no way how white can really achieve too much progress, because you can't get through anywhere. You're controlling one open file, another open file is blocked off, and while you went like this, in this kind of manner, then yeah, we lose the control of the c file.
It's so difficult to understand it all when you're playing a game. All those differences, they're so subtle, so subtle. So when you play a game, you feel like rook g8 coming to an open file makes so much sense, especially that it has a potential to come also to the second rank. And this is what you're taught from the young age. Just bring your rook to the second rank in the end game, try to attack some pawns. So it is a very logical decision. But yeah, those positions are very complex, and especially when you have to defend, you have to be super careful. Now, white has this strong pawn on f6, and the problem is that if white manages to bring the rook to the 7th rank, rook together with the pawn and still with active king, because white's king is really active, it can be a deadly combination. Let's see if the second seed is going to manage.
I think he will manage, especially judging from the fact how quickly player with black piece is playing here. Like every single move he's here making almost instantly, and this is a position that requires a lot of precision, and yeah, just some trouble could come very just suddenly, because as we spoke, yeah, these positions are very complicated, and they have so many nuances. Just here little thingy, and it just changes the entire evolution of the position.
Okay, I think we can take a look. Go back to Ivan Park versus Painian. I think board number 8. This position got even more funny. I don't know even what is happening there. I just saw the pieces looking very adventurous, let's call it. So let's just take a look. Yes, those are the players. Yeah, I'm not sure what is happening. Let's just try to see it on the board, and let's see how it developed, and what is our Grandmaster going to say about it?
Just looks like doesn't it look like black is completely winning?
I guess no, it does. After this, there was some blunder. Like, how did it develop? Like, we really like the position for white, but somehow black, it seemed that black doesn't have. Let's see this move. 16th. Actually, very shortly after we left it. I think it's.
Oh, and instead of castling, instead of playing it calmly, white tried to go for a winning idea and got hit here by queen b7, exploiting the pin on the queen, attacking on g2, attacking the knight on b4.
Queen b7 is such a funny double attack, because it's really just attacking knight and the pawn on g2, but the queen goes under the capture. Again, like there's so many unusual moves in this game, so I think we can appreciate from both players. Very cool game, but I think rook c3 had to be a mistake. Again, if we don't develop, even in such an unusual position, those principles, they can still help us. And here rook c3, the late castle, and now because of that the pawn on g2 is hanging. Bishop cannot take the queen because white's queen is falling, and then still the rook on h1 would be lost as well. And yeah, now white had to focus on the more valuable piece, so had to defend the knight. So queen a5 was played, and queen g2, black wins the pawn.
Yeah, in this position when we have no castle, everything is falling apart. Now it's an easy game. And what we see now, the way black is completely winning this game is just finishing development. I mean, those principles, those basics, they are important. We can't forget them. And even in this kind of position, okay, he took the pawn, but he's not trying to force it. He knows. He castles, king is in safety, development is finished, he's winning the game. He doesn't need to get really fancy, he doesn't need to try to win a miniature checkmate or anything. Yeah, he just goes for the best human approach on this kind of position, and white was trying to mix things up, but everything is just falling apart very, very quickly, and yeah, there are no defenders for the king, and now queen is just jumping around and dominating the board. In this position, okay, it's only extra pawn right now for black, but...
yeah, but king is in the center. And very strange, each piece is, somewhere else, so they can all basically become targets, because rook on h3 is undefended, bishop on a6 could be loose, the queen on d6 is really exposed, so some attacks can easily come, and queen will be hanging, and queen has to keep defending the bishop on a6, so some knight f5 could come very soon, and I guess it's really quite bad.
And I guess the most simple one is just to take the pawn on b2, and it's hard to imagine that this game could ever go on for too long. And in this kind of situation with two extra pawns, so badly placed pieces, so bad king, again, we could just play the normal move, knight g6, making sure that nothing is attacked, and I think white could basically resign already.
A really cool move, queen b7, very beautiful idea. Before we had this move, knight c6, now queen b7, so yeah, very nice tactical game, but it seems black is going to come out on top here. Maybe we can see also the next game, again, move to board number 9, unless there is some other game you wanted to see.
Yeah, let's look at the board number 9. So we left it there, was a queen h8, so was not played queen f4, was played queen g3 with similar ideas. And so, just a second.
I just see that my idea is on the board, that's why I got interested in this position. I'm not sure if it works in this scenario, but it is quite just nice, trying to include all of the pieces. So Nikita played g4 and now h3. Last move you see the arrow was played, trying to open up the file. Bishop now can come to d3, attacking on h7. So I feel like black should probably try to keep file closed and play g3.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because we really don't want this rook looking at our king through the h file. And when you play g3, white has to recapture also in some way, which is maybe not that comfortable as well, like to choose the way to capture. If we do it with the pawn, then we also close the g file, and king could be completely safe as well on g8 in these kind of situations. And if we do capture with the queen, then we can get under some tempos from the rook g8 as one idea, or perhaps simply something like rook c8 as well could be unpleasant, because suddenly black is launching a counterattack using the fact that white's king is on e1. So yeah, g3 is probably a good and very, very important move to play here, because if we don't play it, then a lot of tactical possibilities all of a sudden appear for white. So let's say rook c8 could be an alternative. Yeah, but then we could just take, using the fact that you can't take with the queen, so you have to take with the bishop. And now after capture on g4, we are threatening already g5, and let's say you try to escape from that, you could be just hit with something like bishop d3, and all of a sudden everything is gonna be hanging.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think black can afford to let this rook be open towards the king. I think you just have to go g3 and not allow your opponent to have rook just looking at your king. It's too dangerous of a stair. You don't want this stair to come at you, so you probably need to go g3. G4 is a really interesting idea just to open things up. You could have prepared it by h3 perhaps, but yeah, g4, because knight cannot take since it's pinned, forces black to capture, and then h3. It's all very forced, and yes, it improves black's structure most likely because black has pawns on the f-file that are doubled. Now they are no longer there, but black also now we won the f5 pawn, so it doesn't have such a solid defense of the king side. Bishop d3 will be looking directly towards the h7 pawn, so it gives white some dynamics, but I think it's very far from clear after g3.
Yeah, it is certainly very, very far from clear. I mean, the game is just starting. Players are also running lower on time, and that's also going to bring in some excitement. I think that fg is really just the only move after g3, because we have to play for something with white here. We can't allow the queen to be going back and forth. It's just too slow. And yeah, now black would need to...
Yeah, but then f-file opened as well, so after bishop d3, maybe white can castle. White can castle still, right? King and rook hasn't moved. So it's possible still to castle in some cases, or just go rook f1 or g4. So this is now still a bit more dangerous for black than for white, because white has threats. So black has to make sure that those threats are not going to work. Which position, which side would you choose here?
No, I would take white here, of course, as well. Yeah, like the attacking possibilities. Queen on e5 is so beautifully placed. All the pins and all this tying down opponent here with all the tactical tricks. Yeah, this is the way I like to play. So yeah, it's very, very nice to see it on the board here. And that's why also g3 is not played immediately, or because the f-file and the pin on the knight on f6, it is scary, and you have to be sure that you can completely get rid of it. Maybe something like queen e7, bishop d8 can eliminate any threats there, but it looks too unnatural.
g3 was has just been played, so we have it on the board. I think you really could not afford to let your opponent take on g4 with the pawn, which allows the rook to open up. So yeah, this is also what he concluded, so he tried to stop it. And we see some players, they finished, which board was it?
Yeah, so this is the game we were following, the sharp game, the tactical one. Yeah,
we have just taken a look at it, where yeah, it was crazy situation, but at the end black came out on top and won the game. Very nice try by white player. You know, in the opening, this interesting variation with bishop g5 going back to e3, very practical game, but yeah, unfortunately then he delayed castling too much, and even on this level, you know, they are both so strong. Let me just check, 23-52 against 25-47, but then perhaps what really decided the game was lack of castle.
Yeah, the very basics, the ones we teach to all the beginner players, and that you gotta develop your pieces, you gotta castle, you gotta take care of the center, and yeah, we see that on every level it gets forgotten. And why it gets forgotten is because you just get excited on some more complicated ideas. You know, you see that, oh, this might be like cool attacking idea, or here maybe we can win some material or something, and then you end up with a king in the center. Sometimes it works out, and then it looks just brilliant. But sometimes, yeah, it can backfire.
Yeah, because we learn those rules, and then we kind of, by deepening our understanding, we also understand we can break those rules sometimes as well. So, and then it's really tempting, especially in such a tactical position as they had, to break it, to go for some further attacks. But yeah, it turned out to be a bit too much. Still, good job to the players. It was a very exciting game, and it was great to follow it for us as well.
Now, before we reach the time trouble, maybe we could go for a short break and then be back in a few minutes with all the exciting stuff of the third round?
Absolutely. So we'll go for a short break and then we'll be right before time travel to see all the development on the board. So stay tuned and we'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back after the break. Welcome to the third round of the Riga Technical University Open. And we just have to update you the most important result. We have it on the board one. The top seed won his game. Very beautiful victory. So we are just going to catch up what happened there. We've seen a winning position, but let's see how it happened. And then we are going to see all the remaining games. We have a lot of exciting games still waiting for you. So let's take a look at the board.
Yeah, so the final position you see already from the live board. So it's attacked on g2. There's no way to defend. Checkmate is coming. You have to give up the queen to manage to do something about it. But just getting back a few moves from where we left the game. So there was the queen e5 with this very, very strong idea of knight e2 coming, getting to g3. And this is what happened. Rooks got exchanged and white played bishop h6. Just trying to finish development finally. But it was too late. It was too late and knight e2 just comes, forcing the king to only square h1. Another check. Again, forcing the king to only square back, because on king h2 we have a checkmate with double check and queen coming to h2. And then on king g1, okay, so the repeated one time. And now rook f2. He decided that this is more easy, I guess, way to win. And rook f2 just attacking on g2, cutting off queen and rook. And yeah, c3, but it doesn't really matter what we do. There is no way to defend the g2 pawn anymore. So queen d5 and white resigned because you have to give up the queen. That's the only way how to stay in the game. But of course
that's not going to help, right? So great victory and another very confident and quick queen for the top seed. So he's looking great here in Riga Technical University Open. He mentioned that it's already his third time and the previous time were not that great for him. So let's see if the third time will be a charm for Nicolas Teodoru. And now he is one of the first players, or maybe even the first person who has a perfect score. And let's see another boards that we still have ongoing. Maybe we should update board number 2, since this is our highest board that is still live. On board number 2 we have Grandmaster Kacper Piorun against International Master Pius Tremavicius. Yes, those are the players. We have an endgame in which Kacper Piorun is trying to push for the win, but different color bishops create some drawish possibilities. Is it enough for black to save the game, or is white's activity too much?
Yeah, it feels like black did manage to consolidate the pieces the way he wanted to. He got the bishop away on g6. He didn't allow the rook to come to c7. So I think that Kacper shows somehow wrong type of plan in a way with this king maneuvering around, because as we saw, the moment the king was on c5, the bishop happily jumped away, and now we have rook c2, and there is no way to get the rook on the open file, because there would follow simply a rook exchange, which would be automatic draw.
Yeah, with the different color bishops, the rooks are actually the chance for the player who wants to win, because they can still give some activity, mix things up. But here, if only bishops and kings are left, there is no way to break through this defense on the light squares, because black has a light square bishop and we cannot do anything about it with our dark squared bishop on e5.
Yeah, so that's why he chooses to leave the rooks on the board. But yeah, Pius is playing very, very quickly, and maybe that is something that is helping him in this game, because he's pressuring on time. Although we see right now after rook c4 the evaluation bar
goes up. As you mentioned, there are sometimes issues when you play too quickly, can happened, of course, some mistakes, but how big is the problem here
Is there
after...
rook g6 just
Yeah,
winning?
this is what I'm thinking. Rook g6. So the idea is that we are giving the rook for the bishop. If king takes, our pawn is suddenly super fast, but can't black stop it? There is really no way to stop it.
We don't have even rook b4 to go to b7, so rook is completely cut off with the square on c4. It's, I guess, like the worst square for the rook right now. It can't get to f4, can't get anywhere to g file, and even when we play f7, we can't get to the king to g7 because there is a bishop. So
Yeah, so let's say rook c8 to guard the promotion square, since the pawn is of course going forward to the promotion square on f8, so rook is getting ready to control it, but there's only a rook that can guard it. King cannot come and help the rook, and if white pawn is getting to f8, if rook takes, then white is staying in the endgame with an extra bishop, which should be winning. Black has probably some ideas of pushing forward, but it's difficult to imagine that it could be enough to save it.
wow, this is crazy. He had 10 minutes for this move. He is thinking, calculating, of course, now, because I mean, if it works, he's just winning, and so he has to see it, right?
But he doesn't have the evil bar like we do, so he doesn't know that the evil bar jumped. And sometimes in those positions you can just, keep playing positionally, just trying to think. But it should be the idea. If you have king on d6, you have this passed pawn on f7. Does he see rook g6? Rook g6 is a winning blow, yeah?
It's game over. It's just game over. And yeah, just black had a lot of those moments in this game that he just did very quick move. And it was actually a big mistake positionally, and also like here, like I guess that it is all fine. This whole tactic would not be working really that dangerously if we kept it. Maybe just rook c8 immediately. Just to make sure that it's all working. We are not letting rook on b1, and just we could be checking the king, all sorts of ideas, and yeah, it's just we're waiting out this position.
Still, it's probably not so easy. You always have to be careful when you defend, but here the difference will be that if rook takes the bishop now, if king captures back, king e6, black has rook e8, which allows black to push white king away from the passed pawn. But king e7 you will go. So now rook just goes, rook a8, and then after f7, black has a check. So this rook is able to join from different sides the game and stop the pawn from promoting.
Are we gonna see rook g6? What do you think? Is it gonna happen?
And rook c4, it's so unfortunate, such a strange square. Sometimes you just don't even consider that rook is in the middle of the board. It feels like there are all of, to every side there are open files, and suddenly it is actually a very awkward placement.
So I guess the only options, aside from rook takes g6, that he could think about is some positional move like f4, just to protect the h4 pawn. And yeah, but I don't think, he has to be calculating rook g6, right?
Yeah, and we were mentioning to you already in the previous rounds that Kacper Piorun, he's a solving world champion. He just got a couple of days ago his 6th world championship title. I thought there is some move played because somebody moved the hand and pieces, but it was just player from black side moving the pawns. So yeah, Kacper, he's a solving champion, solving such incredibly difficult puzzles, very complicated ideas in solving. There are just incredibly difficult long lines. So he must be, seeing this. I think he sees it. This is why he's thinking. He already spent 5 minutes, right?
Yes, he already spent something like that, 5 minutes, but he's not sure. He's not sure somehow.
Because this is a decision that is gonna change the whole evaluation. If it works, you're winning, but if it doesn't work, you're losing. So you have to be sure. But he's down to 5 minutes. I think if he wasn't calculating this, something else would already have been played.
What could we need to calculate here? What could be some line, some trick from the black side? Is there any trick whatsoever?
But maybe he's thinking what I was focusing at first as well.
Maybe something like this he's calculating. And that's here on f7, maybe here. No, but we still have king d8, of course. If we were to play king e8, it would be all fine, but we have just king d8.
But you have to make sure, and you have to calculate all those lines that they work. Because if they don't work, if you miss something, then you will lose instead of winning. Maybe he's, what you see, I think he's smiling. I mean, he must be seeing it. He is just smiling, I think, seeing this idea. Come on. It must be now on his radar, rook g6 and pushing this pawn, but... Yes!
It's on the board, we have it.
We have it on the board, immediately captured back, and now king e7 should follow. King not taking the pawn on e6, but going to e7, so that the king is actually guarding the f8 square, the promotion square. Yes, we have it on the board. We have it, and you see evaluation bar is white because it is winning objectively. Are there any tricks that black can try to still mix things up?
It feels like there are none, because the rook is just completely trapped. He has not a single square on the 4th rank, he has no squares on the 7th rank, and the pawn is just super fast. King has no way to improve itself, so we might just see the resignation already in this moment.
Okay, this is a really exciting tactic from our side, you know, no matter if it's...
Or maybe he's gonna try something like this, and then king running to f5, but of course that is just prolonging things. The idea
maybe
is that
bishop c7, trying to go bishop d... no, bishop c7, that can be captured. No, we cannot do it.
but we can play moves like bishop d6, and it's gonna be winning position, but maybe you can attempt, you know, like you can pretend that you have some chances here, thanks to the pawn.
Probably you have to try just pushing your passed pawn after white promotes. Black will give the rook up. There's this extra bishop for white, but black is trying to create some threats with his own passed pawns. But yeah, still a very exciting tactic. Even in the endgames, you have to always be tactically aware.
Yeah, now we see that black player is thinking, no, he doesn't. He's going for this. I guess he's gonna try. Yeah, the rook c8, king f5. They will still play out some moves, but it should be a win. It should be a win for Kacper Puren, the 2nd seed of the tournament, and rather comfortable win, I think, from this point on, right?
It seems like that. I am always a little bit afraid of the pawns, you know, so now opponent will have a passed pawn, so I would be a little bit nervous, but Kacper is a Grandmaster 2600, and it's for a reason, so I think for him, for his level, it should indeed be a confident victory, and that will mean that we will have top 2 seeds on a perfect score if he indeed manages to win. So we will probably come back to this game later to make sure that it is indeed won. f7 is on the board. Yes, there is no way to stop the pawn. Do you think we should move forward, or would you like to see?
Yeah, I think we can go forward for some different games. There are games with very, very unclear positions still left. Also still among the leaders. On board 4 we have an exciting position. On board 5 we have also actually very, very exciting position with the king running on f7 and one side being on last second. So maybe let's switch to board 5 right now.
Yes, I also wanted to suggest that we have Jakub Hyży from Poland against Tomas Lauružas from Lithuania. Those are the players here, and wow, I guess white made a move on 1 second, was it?
Oh wow.
31 seconds on the clock. That means queen f4 was made just with 1 last second on the clock. Oh my goodness, but he managed. But we saw this super fast movement. That was intense. Queen f4 seems to be retreating a little bit from the king side. But
yeah, that was the kind of move I have last second. I gotta make a move that doesn't blunder, that protects everything, but that just means that black is better. Black is just better in this moment, in this position.
So was that a mistake?
That was slight mistake, I guess, but the mistake was done already before with the queen h6 move. I guess he got very excited about the attacking possibilities. Because what happened in this game, just very, very, very quickly while Tomasz is thinking, they did reach this position that we were looking at, and instead of the bishop d6 ideas that I was mentioning, just to exchange this dark square bishop, Thomas went for f5. f5 just trying to gain control over the center and close down the bishop from d3, but that's opening up some squares around the king, and it was followed by bishop e2, knight coming to f6 to cover the h8 attacks. And now in this moment, I guess white went somewhere wrong and started to play too superficial and just improved the black's position. And now queen h6 was actually a mistake because now after king f7 there is perfect harmony in black's position. All the pieces are coordinated. We have to watch out from stuff like rook h8, knight g4 sometimes will be coming. This bishop is still on g2, queen is covering g1 square, so there are a lot of little things to worry about. The knight from c3 doesn't go anywhere, so it's very useless. Bishop from e2 doesn't do anything, and yeah, so it looks like it's a full control. And look at that, he just goes for a5.
This is brilliant, you know, looking at the whole board. Seems like everything is happening on the king side, but yeah, a5 actually threatens to kick the knight from c3, gaining more space, gaining activity, just going forward. He's not worried. Bishop f3 was played, but he's not worried about it, yeah, at all.
So he's
Should
going
he
for
be worried?
he's going for the c2 pawn. He just wants to collect the pawn, and also he's pushing on time. He just sees his opponent is playing on last seconds. I mean, he can't manage to calculate all the moves. a5 is probably not the move. Well, like, very good factor in this position. You're calculating with white on opponent's time, and you're calculating moves like rook d8, rook h8, something very like principled. And then you see a5, and you have only 30 seconds, and you get a react, and it's very, very tough. So
Knight e4, we have it on the board. Wait, this is... What is happening?
without even taking on b4. Oh, wow.
Didn't he take?
No, just knight e4.
Okay, knight e4 with under 3 captures.
I feel like in these kind of positions, taking on b4 is the kind of move that you do automatically because it just gives you 30 seconds. 30 extra seconds to think about all those moves, and you are gonna see a takes b4 back.
But it didn't happen. Now the question is, can black simply take on e4? So the idea is, if pawn takes the knight, bishop I guess takes on e4, and white open the f-file, and the rook is also helping together with the queen attacking the knight on f6.
Yeah, so
and it is not possible to defend it.
We probably cannot take there, at least not in this way. But what about taking with the knight and then something? No, that is not gonna be good. I guess we can just go queen f3 and join the game. And knight g5, it's a big threat, so we do need to react on it in some way.
What about knight e4, bishop takes e4, and something like takes on a3? Can you just pick up the pawn on a3?
I think we are being met by queen h6. Now h8
yeah.
square is actually covered.
Okay, so the threats are there. Knight e4, still a very tricky move. Played on 18 seconds only, but for every single move, players get additional 30 seconds. So this is why we see white is not running out of time yet. Knight e4, knight g5 is now a threat, and black has to find something. What is the move?
We see the evaluation bar. It's saying that black is winning. There is some way to win with black here, but it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But like the most obvious captures doesn't seem to be working, and so
maybe bishop e4, and after bishop e4, somehow rook c4. Can you do that? Bishop e4, rook c4. That's a pin, and now I just want to win the bishop on e4.
yeah, that is so simple. We get an extra attacker on e4, and that's it. And that's it, we just pick it up. Everything is covered. No, there's no queen h6, nothing. We leave the defender knight on f6 still, as it's a great piece. And there is no way to force us to take with the f-pawn, because, yeah, anything like rook e1, that seems to be...
Okay, let's still see, I guess, rook e1, because that is... Since bishop cannot move, it's pinned, so black wants to capture it. If white just defends it, what do we do?
That's a good question, actually. Yeah, we just defend it. Okay. Can I somehow remove the threat on f6? Because then this is going to be hanging. It's not like white can just get out of the threats in one move. Bishop on e4 is very pinned down. So we just need to make some sort of a move that makes sure that our position is safe for the moment when we capture.
Yeah, like queen d8 just to defend the knight, but then rook, I think d1 is gonna go and attack the queen, and then queen has to go away from d8, so it can no longer defend the knight. Or is
But
there some better square?
Then we could take with the rook on e4 already attacking. So that would pick up a piece for us.
So maybe queen d8, it's a funny move, but maybe just defending the knight and saying, okay, now I want to capture your bishop. But can it be, I guess it can be done with the rook first. Rook e4, fe, and then white doesn't have a way. Just pieces are finished.
Exactly. Just
There are no more pieces.
running out of pieces to exchange or sacrifice, so it's very hard in those kind of situations to really strengthen your attack, strengthen the way you go for something. And yeah, he's gonna try to calculate now everything very, very accurately, of course, because I mean, opponent is potentially dropping a piece, so you don't need to push on time if you're picking up a piece. If you pick up a piece, okay, you're gonna win. Doesn't matter if your opponent has 30 seconds or 1 hour on the clock. So he can just calculate and make sure that the position is winning. And also, in case it's not winning, he wants to be able to do moves in bunches. He doesn't want to be like doing one move, then letting opponent think how his time. He wants to be prepared for multiple moves in a row, at least, more or less.
Yeah, he has 13 minutes, over 13 minutes, so he now needs to use this time after 94. Maybe he's winning. If he doesn't find it, he could be in trouble. So it is a very important moment, regardless if he finds the best continuation. Probably he will. He is an extremely strong Grandmaster. So it will be interesting to see, but I'm not sure if we will be waiting now. Do we have any interesting position? Do we see something?
There is a completely unclear position on board 4. Both players are running lower and lower on time, and I think that position is as unclear as it was when we left it. So we can certainly take a look at that game, or yeah, we can be also looking for some other positions. But it does seem to be the most exciting one from the top boards. So let's go to board 4, perhaps.
Okay, board 4, Paulus Pultinevicius against Agraval Vantika. Paulus was a winner here a couple of years ago, and Agraval Vantika is the highest rated female player in the tournament. She was playing really quickly in the opening. She got a very big time advantage, but now we see she is a bit lower on the clock, only 3 minutes versus 8 minutes. So yeah, it's really tough, and as Tom said, the position is super complicated. Now rook b1 was played, attacking the knight on b3. Question is, what can you do with the knight? Or maybe you can just take on c3?
I guess she did miss something, because she had 20 minutes when she played knight b3, and now she is down to less than 3 minutes. So she has spent almost all her time in this moment after rook b1.
So that means there must be some issue, and also evaluation bar prefers white. So I think a natural question is, can black take on c3? The pawn is just hanging, so can black just take the queen and capture the pawn? That is also attacking the bishop on e3, but then rook d3 is coming.
Rook d3 is coming, so the only
Queen
move
c2.
seems to be queen c2, but then we could be met by just rook b2, protecting the bishop and attacking the queen.
Because bishop on e2 was hanging, but now suddenly after rook b2, even though there is no rook on the first rank, and usually when there is no rook on the first rank, it feels like there should be some check, but all of the squares are covered, so black's queen is hanging and there are no checks. Queen would have to...
And that probably loses a piece, or at least something more than that, because we can take, and then we can later take everything. So black would just have to retreat and play with a rook against 2 bishops, which is, of course, a very, very bad Montreal kind of situation to be in.
Yeah, so the idea is that, basically the whole idea after our last move of white, rook b1, is white wants to take with the rook the knight, and even though the other knight can capture back, white's queen is also there, so white will take 2 knights for the rook, and that leaves white with the bishop pair against the rook, and usually that is basically a winning position. Black has a extra pawn on the queen side, it shouldn't be enough to compensate those strong bishops.
Yeah, it seems very unlikely. Like maybe we can try to look for some theoretical fortress type of situations when you exchange those 2 pawns for the 1.
To simplify the position and to just leave pawns on the one wing.
One wing, and then just basically trying to survive. But it seems very, very unlikely because 2 bishops are dominating rooks usually very effectively, very nicely, so it's very, very hard to believe that that is holdable.
You know, this is interesting because a lot of students of mine, especially when we start working, it is not so obvious for them that 2 pieces are better than the rook. Somehow, especially if there is a pawn involved, so it feels like it's an equal exchange, but usually 2 pieces are better than the rook, and especially if there are 2 bishops, then almost any case, unless there is something very specific, they will just dominate the rook. Queen c6 is played on the board, that attacks the rook on d5.
Oh, without taking on c3? That's interesting. Okay, so the idea is that if we take now, then rook is hanging.
So for the time being, yeah, it's a very strong way of playing the game. If you are attacked, try to look for counterattacks. It's one of the rules that you should try to defend actively. So one of those of ways to do it is to counterattack your opponent.
But wow, she had 20 minutes and she did a move on 29 seconds. So now she is down to 59 seconds.
Yeah, and it feels that, well, has it changed that much? What if white just moves the rook somewhere? Let's say rook d1. There's of course rook d6, I guess, to...
In that case, we do have knight c5.
So if rook goes away, then black gains the square on c5. Before rook on d5 was attacking it, so then white can just capture the knight, but here it's defended by the queen, by the rook, and attacked only twice as well. So
perhaps we can play c4?
Defending the rook?
Defending the rook with an idea. If we do capture, then now we can capture, and this is again defending the rook.
Okay, so c4, yeah, capture is not working, but maybe something else.
Knight d4 takes...
Knight a5 is hanging.
Oh, knight on a5 is hanging. That's correct.
But there... Knight d4, bishop d4, and then knight c4?
Okay, that is tricky. Okay, that is crazy line. That is crazy line. So now we hit the queen, undermine the defense of the rook, and if we take like this, queen can take, and again those 2 guys are under attack.
Wow, this is very tactical, very tactical. So putting the knight under capture, and when bishop captures, you actually take the pawn instead of taking the pawn immediately. That's quite difficult, especially on 1 minute.
Yeah, but there might be something more simple. What about just... No, rook e5, that seems wrong. That seems wrong because queen is gonna come here, and now things are attacked and defended. And so queen c6, it's an interesting idea. If only she had done it with a little bit more time on the clock, I think there would be good chances that white does not manage to still solve it all.
Okay, but he has to find a move as well. He has got to do something. He went rook d6, yeah, so that is another counter attack. So
we don't have queen c7 because of the bishop b6 ideas, and probably forcing to take, and then getting
and then
to the
again
same
rook d3
to the same kind of structure, without ability even to exchange the pawn.
But it's slightly different because after queen c2, now bishop is not on e3, so after rook b2, in this case we have queen c1 check. Does it change anything?
Yeah, rook d1,
queen c3. But maybe bishop takes a5? No, queen is defended. Knight can just capture, and queen c3 is defended by the rook.
So there is some difference. There should be something very, very clever now by white. Maybe just take rook b1, because if you do jump away with the knight, I just exchange queens and take on a5 the knight.
Oh wow. It actually sometimes happens. You see those 2 knights, they are defending one another, and it feels they are super solid thanks to that, but actually they are also sometimes, especially if there are pins and attacks, there can be a lot of tactical ideas that they just don't manage to defend one another after all, and actually they're hanging, and because they have to stand like this, they're kind of like frozen, and white can just increase the attack, and black cannot run away with one knight because all the time another one is hanging.
But I think that's what we are going to see on the board, because she, on 3 seconds on the clock, to point out, she played queen c7. Wow, players are so low on time. This is such a stressful stage of the game. You just have to be so focused. You can't relax for a moment, and yeah, especially when you play on completely just on increment.
Most likely bishop b6 has to come, because are there any other aggressive moves? If there isn't, then then black has time to retreat this knight from b3 and go knight c5, and this is why white should go bishop b6 to put pressure on the knight on a5, so that both of the knights are attacked.
So yeah, he's calculating now. He's calculating this now from distance. It might be hard to notice this idea, because after bishop b6 we really give up the c1 square, and then all of a sudden the rook is coming from to the b1. So this is it can be visually sometimes that you get blind on these kind of ideas. Like when we put it on board, it was easy because it was just the most natural follow-up and we just arrived to it. But when you have to see it from distance, it's completely different.
Absolutely, and when you play a game, there are all the nerves involved as well. They have been playing a game in the morning as well, and now it is a second game of today, almost 3.5 hours into the second round. So it could mean also around 7.5 hours of playing chess just today. So of course this also can be a big factor. Now, will Paulus find bishop b6? Is that the only move? It feels
like it should be, because otherwise we get knight c5 back, right? And we cannot take on b3 immediately. We don't have any moves like rook b6. So he's certainly calculating it. This is the main thing, he is calculating it. It's hard to imagine what else to really calculate in this position, so it should be. And
yeah. And he is down to 3 minutes. It's still a bit of time, but you have to make a decision quickly.
But the thing is that if they get to the position with 2 bishops against the rook, he doesn't need the time anymore. That is the sort of position that you can comfortably play also on 30-second increment. So it's all about this tactic, about delivering that, catching those knights and making sure that they don't get anywhere.
In the meantime, we had some results. Grandmaster Nikita Meshkovsky made a draw. He had a very exciting game. We were following it quite closely against Yaman Jinan, but black managed to simplify the position and actually catch the king in the middle of the board for a perpetual check. Wait, and we have a different move on the board, f6.
Yeah, we have a move f6 here. Wow, so he did not find this sequence on how to win the game, and does it change something a lot? Like his idea, I guess, is just to take here to have some ideas connected with bishop h6 and to go for some attacking ideas further on. So big time trouble for both players. Very intense moment right now. Queen takes c3 is played after f6.
Wow. But then rook d3, and now we have the same thing, just like before. Bishop is on e3 guarding the c1 square. What happens after rook d3? Maybe she is hoping to pick up the pawn on f6, and that way she has similar position just with one pawn extra. Can it be somehow done?
But it looks like we don't manage to pick it up, because we can include always f takes g7 here and attacking the rook, and if the king takes us, then we can pick it up a moment later. So this should be even a better version, because king is gonna be exposed. But it could be there was no time, no clarity what to do, how to do it, so that's why, just play the move that she saw with this little time that she had on the clock, because it's not easy. You don't really want to play g6, because you'll leave this pawn wedge on f6, Taking on f6 seems very unnatural as well, because probably just rook recapturing could be a thing, or sometimes some checkmating ideas as well. You know, it's like...
Yeah, I agree. I think f6 was a good practical move. You don't see all of the variations, and you have 3 minutes. You also don't want to spend all of the time by trying to figure out whether there is something or not. So you just play a move that is very aggressive, creates practical problems. It's hard to imagine that black will manage to take this pawn comfortably. So now we see this position which we were mentioning before. White has 2 bishops against the rook, and it should be winning for
What's interesting
white.
that he didn't even bother taking on g7. He's just leaving it there.
Yeah, because taking the pawn on f6 with the pawn destroys the position around the king, and probably is a still improvement for white more than for black.
But we get something to hope for. Every extra pawn maybe is some, you know, theoretical hope, which we didn't have otherwise. But anyways, we can expect this game to be now going into a like slow grinding out mode, where Paulius should win, I think. And there was a lot of excitement also on board 4. No, that's
Board
on
5,
board
yeah.
5 in the game that we were following, because... Oh, it finished. It actually finished.
It finished? But what happened? I thought that there isn't such a clear win anymore. We thought there is a win, and the engine was also confirming that, but...
Rook c4 got played.
What result?
Rook e1. And yeah, it just took on a3.
Wait, did he time out? Or... We have a result that it's 0-1.
Rook ec8, which was kind of like a blunder already. And after bishop f6, bishop f6, queen f3, he tried to play, but he didn't manage. Yes, it's not so clear. I think he lost on time.
Oh my goodness. We see that there is still time on the clock, but I guess it's... well, when time runs out, I think maybe clock doesn't really manage to understand what happened, or...
Yeah, players are analyzing. So he did not find this win with your queen d8, with the brilliant move, just defending the knight and just picking up a piece. He went rook ec8. According to the evaluation bar, it was actually equal position in this moment already.
What?
But then winning on time. Oh wow. That is so crazy. And we see queen f3 as the last move, because he probably saw that he's running out of time and he tried to make the move, but he just didn't manage in time.
Oh wow, that is so painful. But yeah, it happens. And you know, sometimes people ask if it can still happen that you lose on time, even though there is a 30-second increment. It can happen because the positions, they are just so complicated, and you cannot make yourself to make a move. So you're just trying to figure out, and then you might not manage to make a move. You might forget about the clock because you're so into the position. Oh wow, but that is so painful for the young Polish player. Meanwhile, we see very happy Lithuanian Grandmaster. Of course, he was still better. It could be that he would have won the game anyway. He was pushing, but yeah, the game finished already now after queen f3, most likely a timeout here. So another player on a perfect score is Tomas Laurušas, who joins first seed. Second seed, Kacper Piorun also won his game. We were seeing this end game with an extra bishop. So most likely also on board 4, Paulius Pultinevicius is going to win his game, but it's still going, and I am sure that Vantika Agraval will try to cause some trouble.
There is a relatively interesting endgame on board 10 between the Dolzhikova Katerina and Lamard Guillermo, with very unusual material situation. So we can take a look at that, because it looks like most of the games have kind of calmed down. This is still one of the games that is being played on the stage right now. So what is the situation there right now is that black has 2 pieces, and but white has a rook and some pawns, and it's And this kind of situation is where rook often is better than two pieces, because two pieces are great when they have what to attack, but when it's about defending, then they are not always that greatly cooperating. But in the same time, there are not many pawns as well how to attack, and the question is, can white actually find some way to push for a win here, or is black just in time to liquidate everything?
Yeah, that is true. That actually in the end games, and especially if there are passed pawns and a lot of open files, the rooks will be much stronger suddenly than in the middle game. There's still a lot of pawns and not that many open files, so they cannot really show their potential. And this is the kind of position that rook can really be very strong. And sometimes with those passed pawns, rook can even be stronger than two pieces. And so simple version is that in the middle game, two pieces should be much better than the rook, and in the end game, it is simply very complicated and depends on a very concrete setup. Now, king b2.
Here probably black is trying to look for some way to bail out, to with the king to take this pawn and give bishop or the knight for the b pawn, and just to claim a draw with one minor piece against the rook, because yeah, otherwise, of course, there are no attacking, like no winning chances for black whatsoever, despite the theoretical material advantage, because the a pawn is not gonna promote, and we have to just keep defending the passed pawn here. Just a moment ago, I think there was a moment as well that you could go for something like b6 and try to promote, but it just would be rather quickly a draw somewhere. Let's say even this kind of lines is probably just a draw, and that's why player with white didn't want to go for it, because here we can just take off the last pawn, and we are gonna stay in some position with a knight against rook, which is very well known, very easy draw.
It happens though that sometimes you can lose it. It happened in one of the games we were sometimes playing in the rapid chess tournament, and there was rook against the bishop, and managed to win. But that was rapid chess. Shouldn't happen in classical, not on this level. But yeah, one of the important defensive ideas will be to give up one of the minor pieces for the pawn, and managing to just take all of the pawns from white. And even though there will be less material, it will be theoretical draw.
Yeah, we did not look at this game through in the here live at any moment, but it actually was a very exciting game just from the very beginning. There were very unusual piece placement and so on, so if somebody wants to, you can check out also this game, how they got here to this this end game already. And so do we have some
So do you think it's gonna be a draw, yeah?
I feel like this is gonna be a draw, yes. It is very, very unlikely that white is gonna find some way how to push the pawns forward. So the bishop is comfortably blocking the b6 pawn, and even if he managed to get over, we will be able to control this diagonal, and we can, I think, very quickly also just... Oh, okay, we can't even play this kind of moves because we just dropped the rook. So the rook has to leave this h file, and that means that king can attack just h5 pawn. So let's say rook plays just somewhere. We can just again attack the pawn. No, we can't drop the bishop. Okay, that's a good idea. So we can just attack the pawn, and let's say you try to defend it. We can again just attack it, and yeah, that should be just very, very comfortable draw right here. So
yeah, I think we can still come back to the game on board number 4 just to see how it's developing. Now both players are in a very heavy time trouble, like probably everyone, because we are running out of this normal time of 90 minutes per player plus some time, and then suddenly around this 3.5 hour mark, that's the most common that both players are already in time trouble. So yeah, this is our board number 4 live game. Yeah. Is everything clear? We were saying that those two bishops are there. They should be dominating the position. Is it still?
There have been a lot of moves done. I'm trying to catch up on the moves while you can take a look at the live position.
Oh, it's so hard to understand what is happening because actually this queen on d4 for black came, king is on f1, so it feels like black maybe could have some ideas. Now rook c4 has just been played. I think it's quite an interesting move because now, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Bishop can take the rook, and the idea is that queen takes, I believe, with a check, attacking the king on f1, attacking the rook on b3. But rook on d8 is hanging as well, so can white take on c4?
Well,
Seems not, but queen c4, and maybe there is no good place for the king.
Yeah,
King e1.
because we can't go king f2 because we'll be met by rook takes d2 with a check. And if we do this, maybe anyways rook takes d2. Threatening checkmate and just removing the rook from the d8 square.
Okay, because if black took the rook immediately, then queen can take on d8. The rook was hanging, but first taking the bishop, and then that would lead to equality. So now something else was played. Queen takes f5. Guess this is still winning for white.
Yeah, good practical move, just removing the pawn, and all the time there are some threats with the bishops, but
Rook takes a4, also removing a pawn. Rook now a1, there's still some chances. And Paulus is also on 20 seconds.
so they both are playing on increment. So in these kind of situations, some blunders can happen. We're reminding this is the second round of the day. Players have played 8+ hours probably at this point already. And so, yeah, we have seen all sorts of crazy things in this stage of the day, in the stages of the tournament.
King e2 played. This drops the advantage quite a bit. It's still, the bar is still favoring white, but not as much as it was before. It feels like a practical move though, because there are no checks with this rook a1. King is defending the bishops. So what can black do? What is the practical chance?
I
Rook
think
a2?
something rook a2 is very good practical chance, because now all of a sudden there are no checks. This bishop doesn't join the game.
Yeah, bishop is pinned. Something else was played.
Wow, e4.
Wow.
Oh, so that opens up the queen so that there would be no checkmate on g7 in the lines of bishop h6, queen g5.
Oh my goodness, what is happening here? Bishop from d3 is pinned. It cannot take because bishop on d2 is hanging. He took with the pawn. But this dropped advantage even more. I don't know if we have how great this evaluation is, but engine says it is not that clear anymore. It is becoming
wow.
more and more messy, and both of the players playing just on the seconds.
Yeah, this is what I meant, why I wanted actually to take on g7. That the pawn is a pawn. Every pawn you have to pick up, you can give it up somewhere. And
Rook a2. Rook a2 played. Did she play with one? No, with 4 seconds, I guess. Oh wow, rook a2. Both bishops, we were talking that two bishops should be super strong, but now we have the situation in which none of the bishops can make a move. They are both pinned, and actually rook on b3 also is forced to defend the bishop on d3. So let's say white wanted to take on b7. Makes sense, activate the rook, threaten the checkmate on f7, but then black is first to capture the pieces, and queen takes the bishop on d3. So rook has to be on b3.
Probably we'll see something like queen takes h7 now? You
Maybe.
have to have some idea here, right? No, queen g5.
Queen g5 is played by Paulus.
Also on few seconds.
On 1 second.
Oh, wow.
What?
What is going on here?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, queen g5.
He knows that he has messed up the advantage. He knows that he had a winning position and that now it's a mess.
But it also is possible to just lose this in one move, I think, from both sides. So it's not clear. Rook d6, it seems to be a very nice move, at least humanly, because you defend the square on h6, which was often a possibility for white to jump to and give a check. Now also the rook is not attacked anymore by the queen, so it's kind of consolidating practical move. Rook can come to g6 in some of the cases, attack the queen on g5, and also attacking the pawn on g2. So now Paulus is down to 5-4-3.
What did he play? Queen
Again
f5 back.
On 1 second again.
But now black is He didn't manage to calculate, but isn't rook f6, rook f2 coming with queen f2 ideas?
Rook f6 certainly seems like a first candidate. Just attack the queen, and then together with the our own queen looking towards opponent's king. Rook f6 allows queen c8 check, but king is going to g7. She played it.
Well, queen f5 was the kind of move he just saw he has no time, he just made it, and obviously that can never be the best move in the position. I guess we are gonna see king g7 now played rather quickly, yes.
Queen g4, maybe there is there queen g4?
Probably that's the only move right now, because f2 is too...
We see it, yeah, we have it on the board.
Oh no!
Is that...
That loses!
Look at the evil bar, oh my goodness. So what, rook g6?
Rook g6, queen f3, and...
Rook g6, is that the only move?
Otherwise, that probably can't lose as a move.
But what do you do? What is the move? It's okay.
It's some tactic, maybe f5, no, f5.
But she played king f8. Will she repeat? Will they repeat? Even the question is, even if Paulius should be repeating, will he go for it? Because he
usually declines repetition almost always. Doesn't like I had games with him where he declined the repetition and went for -5 position.
Okay, but king f8 is on the board, so Vantika Agrawal didn't play rook g6.
And I think now queen g3 allows rook g6 still. So how do we keep? We have to.
Well, I think he has to keep checking. Queen c8. The only move is king g7.
What happens after queen h4? Where is this winning idea? What are we missing?
Maybe rook g6, but he goes for the
Oh no,
check.
here rook f2 is gonna win. Here rook f2 would win, and we just kick the...
Okay. But he played queen c8. Looking at his facial expression, it seems that he is kind of saying, I am unhappy, but I know that maybe I need to repeat.
Yeah, but in this position, supposedly, it is still equal, and queen g4 is the losing move. There is something else that is equality.
But the question is if Vantika is going to decline a draw after queen g4, that would be very interesting to see.
How could we keep equality here? Can that be a move? No, that's that's losing immediately, king d1. Okay, so we have the position on the board, we see...
Paulius is going down on the clock. He's trying to find a different way. Maybe queen.
He has few seconds left. Last seconds, once again.
He's gonna go queen g4. He's not happy about it, but now let's see, is there gonna be a repetition? Because black, when you see a bar, black is actually winning here, but she goes king f8. Obviously, she was in basically hopeless position, so most of the last couple of moves, black is basically hoping for a draw. So now when she had it, it's hard to switch, suddenly playing for a win.
Yeah, but just speaking about repetition, she could try out rook g6. It's sometimes good to try out these kind of moves to see how they look, because after rook g6 we are attacking g2, and the only move is queen f3, and then we could play rook f6 if we wanted repetition anyways. So it's like just this visual kind of thing, but yeah, there is some win, but we don't see what is the win.
We have a handshake, it's a draw. Oh my goodness, what a roller coaster. We see Paulius is not happy. He knows he was winning.
He probably doesn't know that he's losing here.
I don't think he knows he's losing. He seems to be upset. Maybe, after he sees the evaluation, he will be relieved, actually, that he didn't lose it. So can we try to figure out what was the win?
It can't be just b5 or something like this. Okay, then the black is just slightly better, and that's it. Where is the win? Some tactic that is basically game over.
I think we can just see the line, because we see that their win is there. So let's just see to just be certain.
Queen g1.
Just attacking. Actually, the white suddenly has no threats. So queen g1 attacking the g2 pawn.
And we have no way to defend it.
And when you see it, of course, it's so obvious.
When you see it, it's just there. There's no bishop moves, as we were mentioning. And if you play something like g3, we can just pick up on h2, then we pick up on d2. Oh, and there's just absolutely no way to defend it.
And suddenly it's white's position that is collapsing. Wow.
Not a single move, not a single trick, I guess, for white.
Wow, that was a roller coaster indeed. Black had a chance to actually overtake this game from seemingly a hopeless position. But yeah, we see that chess is, well, game is not over till it's over. Time travel can be a very tricky thing for everyone, including so strong player like Paulus Pultinevicius. Completely winning position for white, but just in a couple of moves, everything turned around. So I think he will still see the evaluation. He was basically lost in 2 moves. Maybe he will be, after all, quite, maybe not happy, but fine with the result.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, indeed. So that was a big roller coaster. Probably the most exciting game in this kind of sense. Also, that we had a game which was lost on time, which is also something that you don't see very often. And yeah, a lot of draws in this round, and a lot of even fights. And I think we're gonna have even less than 20 leaders after today. Maybe even much less, maybe 15. Because we are seeing a lot of draws being played out on all the top 20 boards, and
Yeah, maybe we can just sum up the results on the top boards, because I think top 9 boards already finished. So we can see how many of those top players are still on the perfect score after the 3rd round. So on board 1, Nicolas Theodorou, first seed, won his game, and Kasper Piorun, second seed, on the second board, won his game as well. Then we had a draw, we had another draw, and Thomas Laurushas won his game on board number 5. So that means we had 3 players here. Then we have another draws, Pa Inian. Also very exciting game. That game was also extremely fun to follow on board number 8. So yeah, you see the results here. He won his game, so he is only the 4th player with the perfect score. We had a draw also on board 9. The best local player from Latvia, Nikita Meshkovs, I think he had a really promising position, but his opponent found a nice way to force a draw. So this one also ended in a draw. And yeah, we could have only really not many people with a perfect score. You see the results that we also had a win on board number 13. Really, yeah, we saw this nice tactic by the player with the black pieces, which secured him an extra pawn and a winning position. Jonasz Baum from Poland, he won his game as well, so he is only the 6th player with the perfect score. And then Viom Vidyarthi also won. So just really not that many players with the perfect score. We are still missing some of the results here. I think more resultative games were there, but a lot of draws in this round.
Yeah, now both players, both us, are able to have some little bit more rest, because tomorrow is only a single round, starting at 3 p.m. Riga time. So we will be, as usually, here with the broadcast 1 hour after the start of the round. And yeah, we'll be, I mean, even more exciting matchups as with every game. I mean, now there will be no clear rating favorites, I think, anymore. Like, the difference probably will be in the range of 100 points, which is almost equal in the strength, those matchups. And with a single round, I think players are going to be also maybe looking to play more fighting chess, because they'll be more rested. There will be less maybe quick draws, and they'll try to capitalize on this one single round, because after that they are again followed by double round, which is more tricky. So yeah, should be an exciting night tomorrow.
Exactly. Tomorrow is a single round. Then on Thursday we have one more day of double rounds, and then from Friday, Saturday, Sunday we have last 3 decisive rounds of the event, and those will be single rounds. So I am sure that tomorrow players want to rest in the morning and show up with 100% readiness for the game. So hopefully we see you tomorrow. It should be very exciting round. So For today, we are going to be finishing the broadcast. Thank you so much for watching, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, and good night, everybody.